You and I are about to dive into the intense story of the abandoned empress. We open at a chilling execution. A girl has her hair shorn as she is led toward a cold guillotine. She gazes up at the balcony, seeing the king and queen embracing as she weeps, remembering her love for him. He was her everything, but now the heavy blade falls, ending her life in a single dramatic second. We jump back to the coronation of the empire's 34th ruler, Emperor 𝑴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅. He has a stunning woman on his arm, but 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 is miserable while standing in the common crowd. Known as the Moon of the Empire, silver-haired 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 was brought here to be a companion to the Lady 𝒔𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅. 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 is consumed by jealousy, knowing that �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅's place at the throne should have been hers alone. She was trained since birth for this role, bound by a prophecy told before she was even born. The plan was set for their marriage, until �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 appeared and changed the course of history forever. It turns out �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 is actually a girl from the modern world who manifested in this kingdom unexpectedly. The emperor fell instantly in love, demoting 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 to a lower queen instead of the rightful empress. 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 was introduced as a lower queen, a humiliating step down from the destiny she once held. 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 walks the gardens alone, reminiscing on the glorious life that could have been hers in the palace. �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 joins her and starts to cry on 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅's behalf, sharing in the heavy sorrow of their situation. Stick with me, because their shared grief is interrupted by Emperor 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒂 entering the gardens in a rage. He blames 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 for �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅's tears and coldly orders the empress to go inside and rest her heart. He turns on 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅, cruelly stating the prophecy was always about �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 and never once about her. He leaves her sobbing in the dirt. Seriously, why are the main men in these stories so terrible? 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 is hard at work when �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 comes in upset, finally realizing she took 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅's place and feeling unhappy. �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 goes on a rant, overwhelmed by falling into a new world and having no way to go home. She begs for forgiveness, but 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 finally snaps at the modern girl's weak excuses and constant complaints. You and I know she takes being empress seriously. This is no game to her. Being empress is her life's work, and she finds �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅's complaints about the crown absolutely insulting. She scolds her for mocking a position that carries the heavy weight of an entire nation's future. �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 is heartbroken by the rejection, as she truly just wanted a friend to talk to about everything. She leaves 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 alone, and for a moment, our lead starts to feel a bit of true empathy. Just as 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 reaches an understanding, 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒂 interrupts the silence with another fit of absolute rage. He is furious that �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 is crying again and slaps 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 across the face in front of everyone. He mocks her for wanting him so badly and denies the prophecy once again to her face. 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 is in real trouble now, as 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒂 corners her with a truly malicious look in his eyes. He demands she strip, telling her that since she wants him so badly, she can finally have him. She begs him to stop, while he fumes over rumors that �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 is rejecting his bed chambers. 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒂 is frustrated by his empress, and he cruelly takes it out on our poor lead instead. Look, if you can't get consent, that is definitely your own problem, buddy. Don't blame her. 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 stands firm, stating she is still a queen and will not be treated like a mere mistress. He remains an absolute jerk, vowing to do exactly what he wants with her body regardless. 2 months later, a grand banquet is held to celebrate 1 year of �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅's arrival in their world. 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 thinks her feelings for 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒂 will fade once �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 formally accepts him as her own man. Her thoughts are cut short when she suddenly feels ill, drawing everyone's concerned gaze in the room. A noble named 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒂 congratulates the emperor because it appears 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 is finally pregnant with his child. The room falls silent in shock. The lower queen has conceived before the empress could even try. �𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 screams and collapses to her knees, shocking the nobles more than the news of the pregnancy. 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒂 rushes to his empress, as 𝒴𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒅 watches him with a hollow, empty gaze from the floor. Trust me, you and I really need to see what happens next in this insane journey. All right, you and I are about to dive into the tragic downfall of a noble lady in an icy kingdom. Julian suggests Arista should return to her chambers, claiming she looks unwell just to kick her out of the banquet. Arista spends the night alone, haunted by a recurring dream she once held close to her heart. She once believed a child would make the prince love her, but now she sees how foolish that hope was. Smart girl. It is better to know the truth now than to find out the hard way 3 weeks later. Julian calls for her, only to declare that his heirs will come from Lady Jane, never from Arista herself. Arista is shattered by his cruelty. Suddenly her world spins. Is it fate or something growing inside of her? She collapses from dizziness, and for a split second, Julian actually reaches out to catch her before she hits the floor. Now watch this timing. Just as he holds her, Lady Jane bursts in and gets the completely wrong idea. Thinking they are betraying her, Jane flees. Julian panics to stop her, dropping Arista like she is nothing. Arista hits the ground screaming as she clutches her stomach. Something has gone horribly, terribly wrong. Blood begins to stain her dress. Julian finally realizes the gravity and shouts for a royal doctor. She wakes the next morning feeling empty. The doctor delivers the news. Her baby is gone forever. Her body is too weak from the trauma. She will never be able to conceive an heir for the crown again. Grief consumes her as she remembers how quickly Julian abandoned her side when she needed him most. Rumors swirl through the palace. People whisper that the House of Montague is made of heartless, cold-blooded nobles. They see the Marquis at every royal event, yet he hasn't visited his grieving daughter even once. The court thinks Arista is far too stoic. Honestly, this poor girl just cannot catch a single break. Days pass without sleep. Arista sneaks to her office to work and overhears the servants gossiping nearby. The whispers are devastating. It turns out Lady Jane is pregnant, and the whole palace is preparing to celebrate. A grand banquet is planned to bless the child. The contrast to her own loss is absolutely sickening. Arista realizes no one ever mourned her baby. Something inside her snaps, and she begins to laugh hysterically. You and I can see she is losing it. Then the doors fly open. It is finally her father. Lord Montague grabs her, demanding she regain her senses. He finally sees the wreckage the palace made of her. He admits his mistake. He should have never sent his daughter into this den of royal vipers. He orders her to stay strong. When he returns from the borders, he is taking her home. Finally, someone put her before the crown, but a dark feeling tells her he might never come back. Disaster strikes 4 days later. Lady Jane is attacked, and the Marquis is arrested for high treason. They claim he orchestrated the hit. Even worse, the attack caused Jane to lose her own unborn child. Arista begs the Emperor for mercy. She knows her father is innocent, and this must be a setup. Julian is a monster. He tells her that if she licks his boots, he might spare her father's life. I would have put him in a headlock myself, so kudos to Arista for keeping her royal composure. She swallows her pride and kneels before him, begging for her father to be returned safely. Julian smiles and reveals the execution already happened. He had no intention of ever showing mercy. He blames the Montague family for the death of his heir. Arista is done, screaming at his cruelty. She points out that he killed his own child too, the baby he never even bothered to acknowledge. In a flash of pure rage, she pulls a sharp silver pin from her hair and lunges forward. She stabs the Emperor. Guards swarm the room, arresting her as the palace falls into total chaos. Suddenly, we are in the present. Arista stands before the guillotine, staring into Julian's cold eyes. She swears if she lives again, she will never love him. The heavy blade drops down. Arista falls into limbo. She wakes up in a familiar place, her very own childhood home. She touches her younger face, realizing the gods have granted her the ultimate chance for revenge. Every noble who betrayed her, and every lie told against her house, will be paid back in blood. She will not be the abandoned empress again. This time, she will be the one holding the blade. Stick with me. She is about to wake up in her childhood home, ready to change her fate forever. All right, you and I are about to dive into a massive second chance mystery at the de Montfort Manor. A maid enters, scolding Lady Althea for her messy room, but she quickly beams with a huge, warm smile. She exclaims that Althea is already 10 years old, leaving our girls shocked as she rushes to the mirror. Staring back at her is the face of a tiny, adorable little girl. She has truly returned to her childhood, so she sprints toward the training grounds to see if her father is alive. She finds him there, breathing and well, just as she had hoped. He is completely baffled to see Althea running out in her silk pajamas in the middle of the bright afternoon. Sent back inside, she prepares for her grueling etiquette lessons before being summoned by her father for a formal meal. The dinner is incredibly awkward, mostly because both of them are so emotionally distant and reserved. It is a silent affair, even though they both secretly want to tell the other how much they truly care. That night, Althea suffers through a nightmare of her past life and the cruel emperor who broke her heart. He spends the rest of the night weeping in total isolation. Our poor girl tries her best at home, attempting to reconnect with the loved ones she missed so much. Her father checks in before leaving for the citadel, and Althea realizes he seems much warmer than she remembered. She believes the heavens have finally granted her a miracle and a brand new chance at a better life. She plans to visit the cathedral tomorrow, but that night, the terrifying shadows of her past return to haunt her. Her father wakes her from the nightmare, and she collapses into his arms while Lord de Montfort comforts her. By morning, he is very hesitant to let her travel to the holy cathedral all by herself. Althea insists he is far too busy with state affairs, finally arriving at the temple to seek out the prophecies. However, the temple workers claim that no new visions have been granted to the kingdom lately. She decides to study the scrolls from the last decade, wondering if her two lives could possibly both be real. Now pay attention, because this is where a mysterious voice suddenly stops her racing thoughts in their tracks. The Eternal, the God who granted life to this world, is speaking directly to Lady Althea. He explains that both timelines are valid realities that were fractured when Lady Seraphina was born in the wrong world. The divine used his holy power to rewind the clock and fix the mistakes made in the original timeline. Althea realizes her entire previous existence was just a placeholder for another girl, and she is rightfully devastated. I know what you are thinking. To suffer that much for someone else, it is absolutely heartbreaking. The Eternal reveals her fate was tangled with the prince, making her realize her painful love was never real. She wants to reject her destiny, but the god says it is impossible and offers a gift instead. She accepts the gift, but vows to hold a grudge against the heavens forever. The Eternal grants her the power to forge her own destiny, instead of being a slave. The sheer force of the power puts her into a deep trance as she hears a distant voice calling her. What could this voice want, and what does it mean to truly forge her own fate? She wakes to find her father and servants panicking, with her father even crying tears of pure relief and worry. Her divine meeting took a massive toll on her body, causing her to faint in front of everyone at the temple. The next day, Althea and her father share a quiet moment over a pot of tea. He must return to the imperial palace for business, but wants to hear about her vision. She hesitates to explain her meeting with the god, but her father reveals he already knows the shocking truth. He announces her new, holy name, Althea Pioneer de Montfort, a sign of her blessed status. He adds that the emperor wishes to see her personally regarding her recent journey to the holy cathedral. They travel to the citadel together, though Althea is terrified to return to the site of her past trauma. I really do not blame her. But her father comes to the rescue, scooping her up and carrying her safely into the grand palace halls. Inside, they meet the 33rd ruler of the kingdom, the powerful Emperor Alaric de Castile. And stick with me, because we are about to see his grand plan for the kingdom's protection. Stick with me, because you and I are watching Duke Arkan struggle with the king's failing plan to increase troop numbers. Raising taxes on the poor is a disaster waiting to happen, and Althea knows this move is a huge mistake. The king has heard of her brilliance and puts her on the spot, demanding her solution for the entire realm. Sensing a trap, she realizes the sovereign is testing her, She notices Duke Rothwell, the High Chancellor, watching her closely. Normally, he is the one to tear bad plans apart, but today, he stays silent to see what she does. Summoning her nerve, Althea warns the king that an upcoming drought will turn tax hikes into a famine for everyone. Duke Rothwell confirms her fears, and Althea pushes further, showing a confidence that shocks the entire royal court today. She proposes taxing luxury goods instead to fund the army. To her surprise, the Duke fully backs her bold idea. The men depart to finalize the strategy, leaving Althea standing alone in the massive, echoing throne room of the king. The sovereign then confronts her about the divine name given by the Eternal, a mark that screams of royal blood. Now, pay attention here, because he asks why she didn't just pretend to be ignorant during his little royal test. But Althea is different. She looks him in the eye and says she couldn't watch innocent people starve to death. She is so fearless. The king tells her father he is not worried about her claiming the crown, because Althea is clearly far too soft-hearted. If she were a true threat, he claims she would have been much more manipulative with her political advice today. Still, her compassion makes her a perfect candidate for empress, even if the king's own son is a total nightmare. The sovereign sighs, knowing Prince Reginald is cruel, arrogant, and spoiled beyond belief compared to this girl's noble heart. We know, mans, we know. Althea begs to stay far away from the prince, but at that exact moment, the young man approaches the hall. Prince Reginald is absolutely fuming. He has been compared to Althea his entire life and hates that she is now here. He finds out she is alone with his father, and his jealousy reaches a boiling point outside the closed doors. You and I see the dilemma here. Althea refuses to repeat her tragic old life, but the sovereign cannot let her leave. To keep her claim under control, he decides Althea must marry his son and become the future queen regardless. She knows the prophecy meant a different girl, but only Althea understands the truth after speaking with the divine Eternal. She stalls for time, convincing the king to delay the official seal on her engagement to the volatile Prince Reginald. The king agrees to the temporary truce and allows the girl to go find some fresh air in the gardens. By habit, she wanders into the royal gardens and suddenly comes face to face with the terrifying prince himself. Althea ducks into the thick greenery to hide, but the prince stalks after her, curious to see who is trespassing. Reginald eventually corners her, instantly recognizing her as the daughter of Lord Montclair, his most hated rival and peer. He tries to demand answers, but Althea is paralyzed by the trauma of her past life and can't speak. Her silence is mistaken for pride, making him even angrier. He storms off, leaving her trembling alone in the grass. She is terrified that her second chance is turning into a repeat of the tragedy she worked so hard to escape. Meanwhile, Lord 𝑴𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 is on his way to visit the Montclair estate. He is the son of Duke Rothwell. In her previous life, it was Cedric who thought of the luxury tax. Now, she has accidentally stolen his greatest achievement. Althea is nervous as they meet, fearing he will be furious that she took credit for his brilliant economic idea. The two children face off, and Cedric immediately brings up the new policy, just as she expected he would do. He asks how she came up with it. Althea braces for an argument, but the boy's reaction is the complete opposite. Cedric is thrilled. He thinks Althea is a literal genius and desperately wants to become her closest friend and ally. He has been searching for a fellow prodigy to talk politics with, and Althea fits the bill perfectly for him. His father is obsessed with her new policy, and Cedric wants to be part of whatever she plans next. Guilt eats at Althea, and she starts to admit that the idea was never actually hers to begin with. She loses her nerve at the last second, telling Cedric she simply read about the tax plan in an old book. Althea worries he will leave her, but he just smiles. He has taken a real liking to her and her honesty. Cedric asks if she would marry him, instead if she ever manages to break free from the prince's golden cage. Lord Montclair cuts them off, declaring Althea will never marry Cedric, and trust me, this father is not playing around. All right, you and I are about to dive into a political storm, where an engagement's end, spells total social ruin. Marquis Monique won't let rumors stain his daughter's honor, while the Marquis fears the court will view her as flawed. He refuses to let gossip destroy their house, while Lord Alendi vows to shield 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 from the court's poison. The Marquis decides his daughter's heart comes first, but he sets one massive condition for her new friend. Alendi must defeat a whole squadron of knights if he wants to stay by 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆's side at the palace. He's nervous, but accepts for her sake, while she's just thrilled to finally have one true friend in court. Meanwhile, the prince is still absolutely fuming over 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆's cold silence during their meeting in the royal garden. He's used to everyone worshipping his every word as the future emperor, and her behavior is driving him crazy. He spends his hours in the library obsessing over her, while 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 visits the barracks to check on 𝒂𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆. She runs into Sir Lig, who is absolutely ecstatic his master's daughter still remembers him after all this time. He makes such a loud scene that every single knight on the field stops to see the commotion. Now pay attention, because the way these hardened warriors swarm her is actually the sweetest thing we'll see today. 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 is totally overwhelmed by the attention, but man, they think she is just precious. They set her in the shade until 𝒂𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆 arrives, and she's stunned by the sheer number of soldiers her father leads. That evening, 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 makes a shocking request. She wants her father to teach her the way of the sword. Her father isn't happy at all, as he doesn't want his precious daughter holding a blade with her frail body. She argues that training is the only way to get stronger and finally protect her own future. The Marquis pauses, and then asks if this sudden change has anything to do with Prince 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆. She goes silent, struggling to find an answer without revealing her dark memories of a past life. He mentions a secret from when she was younger, but drops the topic when she looks completely confused. 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 admits she never wants to marry at all and would much rather stay by her father's side. Stunned by her honesty, the Marquis asks to hold his little girl one more time. They are just the cutest pair, and he finally grants her permission to start her training. The next day, she hits the field and shocks everyone, including 𝒂𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆, who can't believe she's actually joining them. 𝒂𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆 goes in for a celebratory hug, but her father isn't about to let any boy touch his daughter. He shuts that down immediately and sends them both running endless laps until they can't breathe anymore. Over at the Ross estate, Duke Arkand greets his wife, who happens to be the emperor's own sister. She asks about her brother, the emperor, and he suggests she pay a visit to the palace herself. Suddenly, their young son Sign bursts into the room asking if his older brother has finally returned home. We see their young son run off to find the horse his brother sent for him. His mother yells at him for lacking noble grace, while the Duke suggests bringing the boy to court. He thinks Sign should become a playmate for the prince, and despite his wife's hesitation, they head out. Duchess Ernia is miserable at the palace and hates that her son has to play nice with 𝒂𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆. She runs into the prince and his staff, who ask what business brings her to their home today. She claims she's just visiting family, and 𝒂𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆 offers his full support for whatever the Duchess might need. Ernia mocks him for being soft, noting he spends all day with books instead of building his physical strength. She tells him he's a disgrace to the memory of the late empress, and 𝒂𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆 is left absolutely furious. She plants a seed of doubt, suggesting that 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 might actually be a better fit for the throne. 𝒂𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆 stands there fuming, because once again everyone is comparing him to the girl he hates the most. 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 doesn't care, though she's training so hard her hands are literally covered in painful and swollen blisters. It is getting harder to continue, but 𝒂𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆 checks her wounds while her maid Lena starts losing her mind. Lena turns her rage on Sir Lig, demanding to know why he is treating a young girl so brutally. She won't let them work the poor girl another second, as the tension in the training yard starts boiling. Her hands are a mess, but she refuses to back down even as the knights watch her with growing respect. Stick with me, because you and I are about to see if 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆's determination can truly change her fate. The knights are pushing her way too hard, especially since Lady 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 is so physically frail. All right, you and I are about to see if she can handle this brutal training from the Marquis. Lord Monique ordered this personally. He wants his daughter to grow into a powerful noble warrior. Their argument catches 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒄𝒆 and 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 actually doesn't mind the harsh lessons. She is thrilled to finally wield her own blade. Learning the way of the sword is a dream. She apologizes for worrying Lena. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream echoes from across the muddy training grounds. A knight is down, badly wounded. 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 rushes in to stop the bleeding immediately before the skilled royal doctor arrives. In the heat of the moment, she completely ignores the painful blisters covering her own hands. But 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 remembers, and seriously, could this guy be any more adorable? He hands over his own gloves to protect her. Then, the first winter snow begins to fall. While she watches the flakes, he watches her. He asks what she truly likes. It is a secret for now. Fast forward 3 months, and 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 returns with a special gift. Something inspired by the white snow she loves. Watch closely. This handmade white chocolate is just too precious. He feeds her a piece. Little do they know, eyes are watching from the shadows. Later at the training grounds, 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 finds piles of presents waiting for her. Every knight wants to spoil her. She tries to bolt, but there is no escape. Even Lena has joined the gift-giving craze. 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 is totally overwhelmed. She hopes her father will put an end to this madness. He is a serious man, right? Wrong, even the Marquis has a gift. Honestly, she deserves every single bit of this love. She takes the tea from him. 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 asks which of the gifts she liked best. After thinking it over, she chooses his special chocolate. Since it was his own creation, he asks her first. Naturally, the other knights are extremely jealous. Now pay attention, because the Marquis plans to push 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 even harder now to make him stronger. His servant brings him a plate of chocolates. 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 usually despises anything sweet. Sugar reminds him of a dark memory, but this time, the bite is surprisingly bitter. Let's clear something up. From now on, our main leads are officially named Lady 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 and Prince 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅. We are sticking with these names to avoid any future confusion. Long ago, a young 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 sits alone, weeping in secret. A stunning woman with vibrant red hair approaches the lonely young prince. She reaches out her hand, leading him through the palace gardens. This is Lady Jeremiah. To 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅, she was the kindest soul in the entire kingdom. He remembers her as being incredibly warm and kind. They were clearly very close back then. The memory shifts. Now, we see 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 kneeling at Lady Jeremiah's bedside as she grows sick. She looks ghostly pale and unwell. With her very last breath, she begs 𝒂𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 to protect her young daughter. He pleads for her to wake up. Suddenly, he is shaken back to the present. His attendant checks on him. The emperor has requested an audience with his son. His father wants to share tea. It is a rare invitation. 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 is suspicious. The emperor usually only calls him for cold business. He spots 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅. She is the spitting image of her mother, the late Lady Jeremiah. He confronts her, demanding to know why she is lurking in the gardens. She is terrified, but finds the courage to say the emperor invited her here too. The tea party is incredibly awkward. 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 notices how she trembles in fear. You and I have to wonder, what could he have possibly done to make 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 this terrified? She shakes so much she spills her tea all over 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅. He just storms off, feeling absolutely furious. Prince Alaric refuses to speak with Lady 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒅, fuming because she has a perfect bond with her father while his own family life is a mess. He reveals his jealousy before storming off, leaving 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒅 to wonder if she will ever truly escape the shadows of her past life. Later, Lord Julian finds 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒅 after her grueling training session and sees that she is completely exhausted from the physical strain. He asks what happened back at the Citadel, but 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒅 remains silent, so Julian tells her she can always lean on him. He promises to be there no matter what. Honestly, seeing his devotion is just too sweet. As they head inside to escape the heat, Sir Cedric stops 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒅 to give her a very serious and stern warning. He warns her about getting too close to House Sterling, since they are a family of officials who constantly clash with the knights. Cedric explains that court politics become dangerous when emotions are involved, and her personal ties could easily sway her loyalties to the crown. 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 weighs his words as she walks away, knowing he is right, but the reality of it still feels heavy. It breaks her heart that even while they are spending time together, she cannot fully trust her friend in the back of her mind. During their break, 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 asks Julian what his dreams for the future are, and he admits he wants to be an administrator. 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 feels a wave of disappointment, already knowing exactly how that path ended for him in her previous life. Julian misreads her reaction, thinking she is upset he won't be a knight, which flusters 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 so much that she fumbles a book. Now watch this part closely, because a simple mistake leads to a very heavy conversation between these two young nobles. Among the fallen books, she finds a story about a knight making a sacred vow to his lady and protector. Julian pins 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 against the shelf and calls her selfish, asking if she only values a man who wears a sword. He asks if an oath of love is too much to ask for, wondering what happens if someone loves the wrong person. 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 quickly shuts the conversation down, refusing to discuss love or oaths any further while her heart is still so guarded. Julian suggests a game of chess instead, but as they play, he can clearly see that 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 is still deeply troubled. 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 realizes her silence makes it look like she actually wanted a knight, so she quickly tries to play off the story. She claims the fairy tale was just silly, but Julian does not believe her for a second and decides to take action. He swears himself to 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 as her devoted champion, and she accepts the oath even though she knows she should keep her distance. Julian is overjoyed to officially be her knight, noting they both have a lot of work to do before their coming of age. We then flash back 1 year earlier, where Lord Valerius has gifted 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 a sword that is way too big. As 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 waddles away with the massive blade, her father wonders if she actually likes the heavy gift. The knights standing nearby give him a strange look, but no one dares to question the gift until they reach the royal citadel. You and I can probably guess why Duke Beaumont finds it so hilarious that a little girl received a sword. The men have no idea that 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 is actually thrilled to finally have a weapon of her own to master. Taking the advice of others, Valerius also buys 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 a doll, but she is hesitant because she never played with toys before. Her father looks upset thinking she dislikes the doll, so 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 quickly lies and assures him that she absolutely loves the present. Valerius invites his daughter out, but she soon realizes she is actually just tagging along to work with her busy father. On their way, her father is stopped by the eldest son of House Lancaster for help. There was an accident during night training that needs his immediate attention, leaving 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 to wait alone in the main office. While waiting, 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 thinks about how thoughtful her father has become with her gifts as she looks at her new doll. She decides to find her maid, Rose, who might know how to better care for the toy, but she bumps into Prince Alaric. She immediately freezes up, realizing she cannot escape the royal presence without showing proper respect. 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 tries to pay her respects since his attendant is watching, knowing she cannot just stay silent in front of the prince. As she goes to curtsy, she nearly drops her doll, catching it just in time but feeling mortified by her clumsy behavior. Alaric ignores the slip and instead asks for the Marquis, so 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 explains that her father is currently occupied with training. She tells the prince about the accident, leading him to decide to wait with her in her father's office. Alaric settles into the office with 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆, making the atmosphere feel incredibly heavy and forced for the young girl. The silence is overwhelming, and Alaric remembers a time when he found a very young 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 crying alone in the woods. He tries to start a conversation by noting she still likes dolls, attempting to break the ice after all these difficult years. Thankfully, the awkward moment is interrupted when Lord Valerius and Duke Thorn finally walk through the office doors together. And trust me, you're going to want to see how this tense reunion between the prince and Marquis plays out. All right, you and I are diving into a world where every move is a high-stakes power play. He's shocked a girl so mature plays with dolls, but her plan saved the land from drought. 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆's glad it worked. She's startled to find Prince Reveille staring at her intently, while Duke Veritas praises her brilliance. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 claims he's glad to have such a bright fiancé, but his demeanor really bothers 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅. Lord Manhwa takes his daughter home, while she wonders why the prince hates her so much. Later, 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 trains hard, obsessed with her goal to escape. She's still pushing herself to the limit. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 worries about his friend's anxiety. He wants her to open up, but 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 just can't speak. He tells her she can always rely on him and leaves it at that. They're sweet kids. On New Year's Day, a grand opera celebrates the emperor's 25th year of rule. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 watches the play with 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 and the emperor, who asks how she's been doing lately. He notes her family is small, as her father sits alone while she's with the royals. The emperor pities that her mother died so young. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 sees 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 tracking her reaction closely. She doesn't know what to do. She has no memories of her mother and no one mentions her. As 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 struggles to respond, the emperor finally changes the subject. Rumors about her doll spread. The emperor mentions she was said to look adorable with it. The emperor asks his son if 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 was as lovely as the rumors said. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 says yes. Now pay attention, because this exact moment is where the story takes an incredibly dark and unexpected turn. Actors play 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 and 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅. She's shocked to see herself portrayed, but then a chandelier falls. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 notices the chandelier crash down right, as the actors almost join their hands. She sees it as a dark omen. Her marriage to 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 is clearly doomed. An actor claims even the chandelier bows to the future sun and moon of the empire. The audience loves the explanation and cheers loudly. Everyone starts clapping. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 wonders if the royals feel that way. If the prince hates her, their thoughts don't matter. That night, she hears her father's voice. He says he's leaving soon for urgent business at the border. Memories of her past life flood back. She begs him not to leave her alone. She wakes up again, realizing she's still a child. It was just a nightmare. Lena bursts in, saying Duke Arkand is at the house. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 joins him and her father. Lord Manhwa informs her that he must go away to a far land for an expedition. Duke Arkand informs her that the terrible drought she predicted is finally coming this year. Her father must travel far to suppress violent riots in the outer lands, where the luxury tax failed, leaving poor 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 feeling completely alone. I know what you're thinking. Is history repeating itself? Let's find out together. She's afraid her father will not come back, just as it happened in the past. Lord Manhwa asks Duke Arkand to guard 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅. Arkand agrees and suggests a farewell banquet. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 walks away from the meeting and runs into the Duke's son. He asks about her sword training, assuming she's a fast learner under her father. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 agrees, but she's distracted. She's terrified, but the Duke's son promises his brother and father will watch over her. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 asks what type of person Carson, the young brother, really is. He's not bad once you know him. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 wonders if the family is on good terms. Later, at the 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 mansion, Lord Manhwa and 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 are welcomed to the banquet. She goes to see 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅, but someone seems unhappy about it. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 feels so alone. She wonders how she'll manage her studies and household duties once her father finally leaves. A loud crash breaks her thoughts. A maid runs out of a room, crying. 𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 wonders what happened and is led into the room by another maid. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. All right, you and I are about to dive into a story of second chances and noble secrets. The boy is furious, eyes icy, but the moment he spots Lady Aveline, his entire mood completely shifts. He laughs off the noise as just a maid breaking teacups, then leads her to the royal gardens. It is a stunning afternoon, but the peace vanishes when Lord Julian announces he has to leave her. He explains the king needs him to suppress the riots, since he is a far better fighter than his brother. Aveline feels like she is losing everyone, but Julian thinks she is just upset over that maid from earlier. Thinking he might have been too harsh, he leans in and gives her a soft kiss on the forehead. He tells her to stay safe, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay far away from all other noble boys. The following day, she sees her father off to war and hands him a handmade good luck charm. In return, he gives her his own silver cufflinks, mentioning he luckily has a spare set in his luggage. Now pay attention here. This small moment is about to get interrupted by something totally hilarious and unexpected. Suddenly, every single knight is lining up to offer her their own cufflinks as gifts before they all march away. For days, she tries managing the 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 estate alone until her maid, Lena, suggests a shopping trip for fresh air. Aveline agrees, but Lena is absolutely shocked when her lady ignores the fancy dresses to go look at weapons. While Lena goes off to grab a snack, Aveline waits alone and hears a loud redhead arguing with a shopkeeper. She wonders which house he serves until her eyes land on a sword, identical to the one her father carries. It turns out she has just met the youngest son of the Thorn family, a boy named Sir Cedric. Cedric is stunned to see a noble girl inspecting blades and mocks her, saying that heavy sword will crush her. He hands her a lighter weapon to test, and as she looks closer, she realizes exactly who he is. He is just as arrogant as the legends say, even offering to teach her how to properly swing a sword. Their chat is cut short when his servant arrives, frantic because the young master ran away for the 10th time. As he is dragged away, Cedric tells Aveline she better come visit his estate before he leaves the capital. Back at her own manor, she tries practicing alone, but finds herself completely lost without a proper mentor to guide her. Remembering Cedric's offer, she decides to head over to the Sterling estate to find the young knight once again. While waiting for Cedric, she meets Duchess Elinor and realizes the woman still looks down on her like before. The cold silence is broken when Cedric rushes in, thrilled to see her, but the Duchess demands a formal greeting. You saw that too, right? Some things never change, even if you travel back in time to fix your life. She introduces herself as a daughter of House Avenel, but the moment the name leaves her lips, Cedric freezes. He stares at her in shock and asks if she is truly the girl destined to become the future empress. Mentioning House Avenel makes Cedric freeze, as he realizes she is the girl destined to become the future empress. Flashback to a day before the expedition, where Duke Sterling and the Marquis are playing a quiet game of chess. The Marquis is clearly distracted, worried about leaving his daughter behind while that silver-haired Lord Julian stays close by. The Duke suggests his younger son keeps an eye on her instead, and the Marquis actually stops to consider it. Suddenly, the scene snaps back to the present moment, where Cedric is yelling that he refuses to help her. Aveline has no idea why he is suddenly exploding at her, but the Duchess steps in to stop the shouting. He agrees to keep his promise, but he is incredibly cold and rude, a total 180 from his previous self. They meet on the training grounds, where she finally asks why he suddenly hates the sight of her so much. His answer is simple. It is because she is an Avenel, and he has no time for pampered noble girls. He thinks she only wants to hold a sword to look different and feel special in the royal court. He claims he refuses to train a noble daughter because the only reason a girl like her would pick up a sword would be to stand out and act differently than the other ladies in the royal court. Aveline argues that is not her reason at all, so Cedric tells her to prove it by demonstrating the basics. After she shows him what she has mastered so far, the arrogant boy just calls her skills absolutely pathetic. Despite the insults, she decides to endure his behavior because he is a true genius with a blade. Trust me, she needs his help, and that is exactly where you and I will see things get wild next time. Stick with me. You and I are about to watch a noble lady fight for her life and honor. Tired of being called feeble, Althea decides to transform her body and starts by gathering her loyal staff. She orders Alan and Lena to prepare a strict diet and sew heavy sandbags to wear during her training. The servants of House Montague watch in fear as their lady pushes herself far beyond her physical limits. For days, Althea endures intense weightlifting and sword drills, refusing to stop until she can no longer feel her arms. As time passes, the scene shifts to the arrogant Sir Cassian, who seems oddly anxious while waiting for someone. He rushes to check every passing carriage, hoping to catch a glimpse of the girl he once looked down upon. It turns out to be a mere designer, leaving Cashin disappointed as he realizes he might have been too harsh. He has been waiting for Althea this whole time, wondering if his cold words actually drove her away for good. Feeling conflicted, he regrets his behavior since he was the one who offered to help her in the first place. He admits he was prejudiced, fearing she would be just as unpleasant as her fiancé, the cold Prince Rowan. Meanwhile, back at the Montague estate, Althea is training so relentlessly that her servants fear her health is failing. Now pay attention, because this is the moment Cashin loses his patience and finally bursts onto the training grounds. He is horrified to see her body breaking under the pressure and immediately demands that she stop this madness. He tries to snatch her sword, but Althea snaps, telling him to leave since he rejected her anyway. She tries to dismiss him, but Cashin refuses to move, determined to stop her from hurting herself any further. As she turns to walk away, the exhaustion finally catches up, and Althea suddenly collapses in a dizzy spell. Cashin catches her and carries her inside, where she eventually wakes up under the careful watch of her maid. Althea is devastated to find she is still just as weak as she was in her tragic past life. Time is running out to change her fate, but her dark thoughts are interrupted when Cashin enters her room. He scolds her for being so reckless, explaining that she is destroying her body rather than building real strength. He questions why a frail girl would go this far, and Althea finally asks him why he turned her down. Cashin explains his reasoning. He believed she would simply quit the sword once she married into the royal family. He refuses to train anyone who does not value the knightly arts as much as he does himself. But Althea is not backing down, declaring with fire in her eyes that she intends to become a knight. While she fights for her future, Prince Rowan is busy dealing with starving lords demanding more supplies during this drought. The kingdom is in a state of emergency, and the young prince is struggling to keep the peace. You and I are about to uncover a new mystery as an unknown envoy arrives at the city gates. Althea is determined to lead House Montague as a knight, hoping to preserve her family name against all odds. She confesses her struggle to Cashin, but immediately regrets being so vulnerable in front of a fellow noble. She quickly puts her guard back up, demanding that Cashin leave her estate and stop bothering her. Before he goes, she sharpens her tongue, telling him to start behaving like a proper gentleman for once. Cashin storms out in a rage, leaving Althea to be haunted by the worry she has caused her servants. A few days later, Althea has recovered her strength just in time for a letter to arrive from the palace. It is an official summons from the emperor himself, requesting an immediate audience with the young lady. Althea prepares for the meeting, but upon arriving at the palace, she hears the local lords whispering about her. They gossip that she is far too young for marriage, though she ignores them and continues toward the throne. The emperor greets her kindly and asks who is currently providing protection for her while she is at home. When she admits she has no personal guard, the emperor decides to assign her a royal protector immediately. Althea hesitates, fearing this will bind her closer to the crown, but the emperor promises it is for her safety. He assures her this favor will not be used against her, yet the stress of the palace is taking its toll. Dizzy and tired, she forces herself to stay upright until the heavy doors to the throne rooms swing open. Prince Rowan enters the room, looking completely exhausted from managing the paperwork of the ongoing national drought. He has been overloaded with work by his father, and the tension between the two is clearly visible. And that is where we leave it. Trust me, you and I are about to see this drama explode. All right, you and I are about to watch the king play a very awkward third wheel for his son. But no tea today. Aristia is still incredibly weak. The king notices her ghostly pale face and orders her to the royal physician immediately. He tells the prince to escort her, and they leave at once. Walking through the palace, Rouveles sees her struggling for breath. He realizes she can't make it and calls a carriage. The prince announces they're heading straight back to Monique Manor. He's actually taking charge here for once. During the ride, 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 watches her closely. He's shocked she still tried to do her duty while so frail. Her composure is impressive. He whispers that they're both acting like fools, but he won't explain why. He leaves as soon as they reach the manor. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 watches him go, suddenly feeling a strange sense of emptiness. Was he actually worried about her? She realizes she wasn't even afraid of him on the ride home today. She heads inside, while 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 rides away, his mind still lingering on her well-being. But the peace is short-lived. Royal guards have arrived and they are everywhere. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 just can't catch a break. No matter where she turns, the king's men are right there, watching her every single move. While she manages the manor, Lena brings her the mail. One letter is from Lord 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆. He writes all about his wild adventures in the outer territories, begging her to take proper care of herself. After reading his note, she finds a second letter, this one from her father. He promises his eternal support, and his kind words give her the strength to restart her nightly training. Far away on the kingdom's borders, 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 can't stop thinking about her. He's already writing another letter. Here's the catch. His father sees exactly how miserable he is being away from the palace and 𝒂𝒆𝒂. He warns his son that being close to the prince's fiancée is suicide. That's why he was sent away. His father tells him to rest and leaves, but 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 swears he will never give up on her. He won't abandon her. Back home, Sir Seymour, one of the new royal guards, starts training her. He is impressed by her progress in the basics. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 is so pleased, she invites him for tea. Mid-tea, Seymour senses a presence in the garden, an intruder, but it's just Lord Carcine sneaking in. Carcine is shocked to see a knight there. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 dismisses Seymour so they can speak privately. Carcine doesn't even know why he came, so he just makes up a random excuse to be there. He claims he was offended when she told him to act like a proper lord last time. You and I know he's just being difficult. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 apologizes immediately, leaving him totally confused. Why isn't she mad? He says apologizing lowers her dignity, but she teases him right back instead. Lack of manners is what really lowers a person. She asks him again, why did he actually visit? She jokes that if his rudeness continues, she'll tell Duke d'Arcant all about his bad behavior. Now that they've made up, Carcine invites her over again, but she quickly turns him down. She says she doesn't need his help anymore, because Sir Seymour is now her official instructor. Fine, Carcine just decides to invite himself to her training session the very next morning. He's way too excited and loud, so 𝒂𝒆𝒂 offers him some tea to calm him down. He takes one sip and spits it out instantly. He starts complaining loudly about the strange flavor. He insults her taste, and she's had enough. She snatches the cup and storms off in anger. Sitting alone, Carcine asks Sir Seymour what went wrong. Seymour explains that her tea is a masterpiece. Drinking tea brewed by Lady Monique is a high honor. Carcine walks over to her to apologize. He tries to drink the rest to make amends. She gives him some sugar, and he gulps it down. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Prince 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 is stuck in a meeting with a group of nobles. They're targeting Lady 𝒂𝒆𝒂, claiming she's too young for her duties, and they have an alternative in mind. They want their own daughters to be queens alongside her. Talk about a blatant power grab. 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 is furious. How dare these lords question his royal engagement to 𝒂𝒆𝒂 like that? His father clearly ignored them, so now they are trying to manipulate the young prince instead. It's a trap to steal the throne, and you and I both know the drama is just beginning. All right, you and I are heading back to House Monique, as 𝒂𝒆𝒂 receives a mountain of letters. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 writes of their winter together, recalling the snowball fight that left her bedridden with a cold. He tells her to stay warm, promising a special gift will arrive once spring finally blooms again. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 prepares bookmarks for him in return, just as Carcine drops by for a surprise visit today. Later, during her grueling nightly drills, 𝒂𝒆𝒂 heads out for a quick jog to clear her head. Suddenly, she feels eyes on her. A green-haired man lunges from the shadows and grabs her. It is 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆. He is finally home and has missed his dear friend more than words can say. Now watch this. Carcine sees the two embrace and charges over to rip them apart instantly. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 asks for an introduction, while 𝒂𝒂𝒃 seethes with jealousy over seeing them so close. 𝒂𝒃 demands to know why she is so comfortable with 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆, begging her to use his name. 𝒂𝒆𝒃 refuses and forces him to be polite. 𝒂𝒃 is desperate for the same intimacy as 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆. She finally relents, but his joy is short-lived when she uses his name with total indifference. 𝒂𝒆𝒃 can be as petty as she is powerful, leaving the young knight fuming in her icy, cold wake. While 𝒂𝒃 seethes, 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 asks for a proper greeting gift to mark his long-awaited return. He wants to call her Tia. 𝒂𝒆𝒃 is stunned, as nicknames are usually for family or lovers. It is incredibly rare for simple friends to share such intimate names in high society noble circles. What is he planning? Sensing her worry, 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 promises never to use it in front of others. She agrees, and in exchange, she begins calling him Alan. He is absolutely thrilled by the trade. 𝒂𝒆𝒃 is so moved by having a true friend that she weeps, sending 𝒂𝒃 into a panic. He rushes to her side, looking like the protective knight we adore. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 swears he did not make her cry, then uses her nickname just to tilt 𝒂𝒃 further. He sends 𝒂𝒆𝒃 inside to brew tea, claiming he has business to discuss with his rival knight. Once alone, the masks slip. 𝒂𝒃 tells 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 to drop the act and show his true face. He knows 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 is only playing the gentle scholar for her. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 drops the facade instantly. He mocks 𝒂𝒃, admitting he originally thought the young knight was just a loud, stupid child. The insults fly until 𝒂𝒃 snaps, grabbing 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 by the collar as his temper finally explodes. A terrified maid spots the brewing brawl and sprints back to the manor to find Lady 𝒂𝒆𝒃. The two rivals argue, with 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 claiming he has cherished every single second spent with the girl. He declares that 𝒂𝒆𝒃 belongs to him alone. 𝒂𝒃 is unimpressed, calling the scholar completely insane. You and I can probably guess what happens next, as the maid tells 𝒂𝒆𝒃 about the jealousy. 𝒂𝒆𝒃 finds the idea of both boys fighting over her impossible, but 𝒂𝒃 suddenly bursts through. He shouts at her to end her friendship with 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 before things get even more complicated. 𝒂𝒆𝒃 ignores the drama and makes them both sit for tea, waving away 𝒂𝒃's heated concerns. She is far more focused on the mysterious gift 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 mentioned in his many letters. 𝒂𝒆𝒃 asks about the special gift he mentioned, but 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 simply replies that he is the gift for her. It is a bit cheesy, right? 𝒂𝒃 clearly thinks so and begins to lodge a loud, formal complaint. Suddenly, a butler arrives bearing a heavy royal letter. 𝒂𝒆𝒃 flinches at the sight of the gleaming, majestic golden royal seal. A member of the royal family has written to her. She is visibly shaking as she reads. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 already knows the contents. Prince 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒃 is nearing his coming-of-age ceremony very soon. He predicts the letter is an official summons for the upcoming festivities surrounding the crown prince. He is right. This milestone means her formal engagement to the prince will be finalized by the crown very shortly. The royal tailor arrives to measure her for a gown, while the kingdom begins the busy preparations. As the palace grows hectic, 𝒂𝒃 and 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 are left alone while 𝒂𝒆𝒃 is swept away. 𝒂𝒃 notices how pale she looks, wondering aloud if she is on the verge of another collapse. And that is where we leave it, with 𝒂𝒃 revealing she plans to take her own name to become a knight. Stick with me as 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 hides her plans and accuses Sir 𝒂𝒃 of knowing absolutely nothing. Both boys realize they must stop arguing and focus their efforts on helping Lady 𝒂𝒆𝒃 instead. 𝒂𝒆𝒃 is terrified by news of the princess celebration, fearing she is being forced into a marriage. She wants to declare herself the family heir, but with her father away, she has no support. Lord 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 visits her, visibly worried for her health after hearing rumors while he was traveling abroad. He mentions Sir 𝒂𝒃 spoke of her sickness, and 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 admits he wanted his letters to comfort her. It is a sweet gesture, showing how much he truly cares for her during these difficult times. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 begs 𝒂𝒆𝒃 to finally open up about her burdens, but can she really tell him everything? He keeps pressing for answers, desperate to know why she fears the palace and the crown prince. He wants to understand her need to escape a life that every other noble girl truly craves. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 is stunned by how observant he is, but her deep fear of abandonment keeps her silent. Now watch as she finds the courage to speak for the sake of those she loves. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 finally tells 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 the truth about her past life, the prophecy, and her miraculous second chance. She waits for him to offer comfort, but instead, he claims her memories were just a nightmare. That has to hurt. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 still demands logical reasons for why she hates the imperial court life. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 realizes he must think she is lying, and the cold realization stings more than she expected. Furious, she shouts that she hasn't even told her own father about the horrors she has endured. She cannot understand his disbelief, so in a fit of rage, 𝒂𝒆𝒂 kicks 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 out of her room. With their friendship fractured, she prepares for Prince 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆's grand coming-of-age ceremony the next day. As she gets ready, her maids whisper about the late-night visit until Lena sternly shuts them down. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 arrives at the palace by carriage and offers a formal greeting to the cold Prince 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆. The prince questions her somber expression, but decides to move on as they prepare for their entrance. They enter the royal court together, finding both Sir Carcine and Lord 𝒊𝒕𝒓𝒆 among the invited guests. 𝒂𝒆𝒂's eyes meet 𝒊𝒕𝒓𝒆's, and she quickly looks away, though not before Prince 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 notices the tension. 𝒊𝒕𝒓𝒆 is officially crowned as an adult, and the banquet begins, but 𝒂𝒆𝒂 slips away for air. The prince searches for her, but he orders his servants to stay back and not retrieve her. He thinks about 𝒊𝒕𝒓𝒆 and the rumors that the two of them have grown suspiciously close lately. You and I can tell he's jealous when she returns, and he pulls her for a dance. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 returns and takes the dance floor with the prince as the entire court watches them. The crowd is mesmerized by the young couple, but 𝒂𝒆𝒂 can only focus on how cold he feels. She remembers falling for him during this dance before, but now she feels only a haunting dread. She wonders if her new life is actually different, or if she is just repeating the past. During the dance, 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 comments on how remarkably experienced she seems despite this being her first ball. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 simply claims she has been practicing hard, keeping her secrets buried deep within her. He asks if she has been practicing with someone else, gesturing pointedly toward 𝒊𝒕𝒓𝒆 in the crowd. I think he is getting a bit jealous, and his sharp accusation causes 𝒂𝒆𝒂 to slip. She loses her footing, but the prince catches her just in time, bringing the dramatic dance to an end. While gifts are presented, 𝒂𝒆𝒂 tries to find a moment to speak with the emperor without any witnesses. As the treasures arrive, 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 catches her eye and asks why she seems so utterly terrified of him. He suggests that she remembers something from their youth, but 𝒂𝒆𝒂 has no idea what he means. Then, he suggests her fear stems from her new middle name, 𝒊𝒕𝒆𝒄𝒆, which carries a heavy weight. He says she has a claim to the throne and might be next in line before him. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 asks what he plans to do, and his response is that she should be the queen. She realizes she is just a political obstacle to him, and her heart breaks at the truth. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 looks heartbroken as she realizes she's an obstacle, and honestly, you and I feel that too. 𝒊𝒔𝒄𝒆 actually believes making Lady Tia his queen will satisfy the family and secure their noble status. He thinks this is what 𝒂𝒆𝒂 was worried about. Oh, sweet prince, you have no idea. Let's see who's about to crash court. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 is interrupted by a very important guest. Lord 𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 is back. After his long expedition, the sovereign immediately dismisses 𝒂𝒄𝒆 to give them some space. 𝒂𝒄𝒆 finds a moment to reunite with 𝒂𝒆𝒂 during a walk, tenderly asking if she has been well. She breaks down in relief, and the sovereign chuckles, noticing how the prince and emperor are watching. The sovereign notes she is still just a girl. Lord 𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 agrees, using it as a clever opening. He claims his daughter is far too young to support an adult prince as a royal bride. Now watch this move. Lord 𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 decides it is time to officially name an heir for his house. He refuses to remarry, and only the sovereign knows the heartbreaking reason why he stays alone. He plans to name 𝒂𝒆𝒂 as the heir, making 𝒊𝒔𝒄𝒆 think this explains her strange behavior lately. The prince stops him, claiming he never rejected 𝒂𝒆𝒂, even if he didn't appreciate her before. What a charmer, right? He insists the ceremony is no place for talks about the inheritance. The sovereign and his son make a swift and silent exit from the court. Duke de Ross and Sir Carson come to greet them, but Carson is visibly bothered by something. He saw 𝒂𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 with Lord Alen earlier and wants to ask what happened, but can't find the words. He decides to stay quiet, and the group tries to enjoy the rest of the evening's festivities. Later that night, Care visits 𝒂𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅's room, staying by her side until she finally falls fast asleep. By morning, her father is gone. Noisy chatter outside wakes 𝒂𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 from her deep slumber. She opens the window to find the manor's knights lined up just to greet her. How sweet. Wait, she's still in her nightgown. She ducks away while the knights promise they didn't see anything. They are officially back at the estate and ready to serve under her care from now on. 𝒂𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 rushes to breakfast, where her father brings up the heavy events of the previous night's ceremony. Care promises that naming her as the family heir will work out, but 𝒂𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 isn't so sure. She needs to become a knight, first to claim the title, and escape her royal engagement forever. You and I can see the prince is stumped. He can't fathom why she's so terrified of him. He is absolutely stunned that she and her father would go this far just to escape his royal reach forever. Meanwhile, over at the training grounds, Sir Carson and his older brother clash with real steel swords. Sir Carson asks if his little brother plans on visiting the Manhwa manor to see Lady 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 today. Sir Carson thinks he would just be a nuisance, so Sir Carson suggests they spend the afternoon training together. Back at the Manhwa estate, 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 is out on the grounds, but her mind is miles away. Her father suggests a break at their countryside manor to escape the suffocating pressure of the city. 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 is thrilled. Getting away from all the palace drama sounds like exactly what she needs. At the royal castle, the dukes discuss Lord Manhwa, complaining that they also desperately need a vacation. The gossip quickly turns to the ceremony and the news that 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 might become the family heir. This move would shatter the royal engagement, and trust me, Prince Revels is not taking it well. The dukes agree that life at the palace is about to get incredibly messy for everyone involved. They begin to strategize, knowing they need to prepare for the political storm that is surely coming. Finally, 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 and her father arrive in the beautiful countryside, and she is absolutely beaming with joy. She runs around greeting the workers and soaking in her new surroundings. So cute, right? Looking back at the city, she wonders if she is just running away from her massive problems. She is met by Ben, the kind old butler who looks after their quiet country manor house. He asks if his son is taking proper care of her, noticing she looks a bit weary. 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 assures him that Alan is doing a wonderful job before Ben heads off to cook dinner. She sees Lena arriving with flowers and smiles, and that's where you and I leave her for now. 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 chooses to focus on what brings her happiness, like her blooming flowers. All right, you and I are about to watch a princess master her own happiness. Meanwhile, someone far away in the capital is dreaming of her. 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 has spent a month at the manor, learning her father's duties and training hard. Lord Cairnan is so proud of his daughter for coming so far in her sword training. While training outside, the Marquis sends a secret letter back to the capital. At the de Ross manor, Aelindis visits Sir Cillian and asks him to deliver a letter. Cillian wonders why he would ever help his rival or be able to see her. Aelindis is certain Cillian will see her first, leading Cillian to suspect something happened between them. Aelindis quickly changes the subject, asking if he saw her dance with Rufus. Lord Aelindis wants a truce and explains exactly how worried he is for 𝒂𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅's well-being. Now, pay attention here, because Sir Cillian is desperately trying everything to get 𝒂𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 out of his head. He fails completely, not even noticing his father sneaking up to give him a brand new mission. He must hurry to the Manhwa manor right away because the Marquis requested him. The Duke is sending his son to the countryside to train her, and Cillian is shocked. He will be the one to see her first. Meanwhile, rumors are spreading through the city. The nobles believe House Manhwa has fallen out of favor with the royal family and the crown. Other nations hear of this rift and start sending their own daughters to steal the throne. Every powerful house wants their girl to be the future empress instead of our leading lady. One of them is the House of Lyle, who have wanted that crown for generations. Out in the country, Arisha is stunned to see Cillian standing right there at her doorstep. Her father reveals he has to return to the palace and asks Cillian to train her. You and I both know she wants to go with him, but she chooses to stay as her father leaves. Once they are alone, Cillian hands her the letter 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 gave him, leaving her very surprised. She looks unhappy, and Cillian asks what truly happened between her and the clever scholar. In the letter, 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 apologizes for his lack of trust and begs for her forgiveness. Arisha quickly sends a reply, wanting to mend their bond and start over again. At the palace, Prince Rufus is still brooding over her, wondering why she fears him so. He can't understand her terror, especially since she claims not to remember any incident from their childhood. His thoughts are interrupted by reports on the borderlands, forcing him into a meeting. During the meeting, Rufus decides he must go to the Manhwa manor himself. He is determined to hear her reasons for rejecting the throne with his own 2 ears. Arisha is thriving under Cillian's guidance, as their fighting styles are a perfect match for training. Both of them can see how much she has improved, and the progress is absolutely stunning. Cillian asks if they can be less formal with each other, and she happily accepts him. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 sends more letters, doing his best to understand her past life and her new path. Suddenly, royal guards arrive at the gates by order of the crown prince himself. Prince Rufus arrives shortly after with a massive crowd, following his every move to the manor. Arisha is overwhelmed by the noise, and Cillian stays close as the prince watches them both. Rufus notices their bond and tells Cillian not to let him down. What does that mean? Arisha hosts the prince for tea and has the chefs prepare a truly flawless feast. The dinner is served perfectly, and Cillian joins them at the long table. Despite the smooth meal, there is a strange, heavy tension hanging in the air tonight. The prince thanks Cillian, but pointedly keeps calling Arisha his fiancée over and over. And trust me, you and I are about to witness their very first private conversation. Stick with me, inside the manor. Sir Alaric is fuming while Prince Rupert's valet puts him in his place. Behind closed doors, the prince demands to know why Lady Alastair fears him, especially since she acts so perfectly. She is confused until the realization hits. She accidentally ordered every single one of his favorite things. Nobody outside the palace should know his tastes. Is her secret identity about to be exposed right here? Panic sets in. She spent her entire past life studying him, memorizing every detail just to win his heart. Now, even while trying to flee Prince Rupert, she is repeating the exact same patterns that once made him admire her. Watch closely. She begins to wonder if she can ever truly break free from this suffocating cycle of fate. Will Lady Genevieve reappear and ruin her life all over again, just like she did in the original timeline? Rupert snaps her back to reality, grabbing her arm and demanding to know what is in her head. He declares that the heavens themselves have destined them to be together, and he intends to crown her his queen. But Alastair wants nothing to do with him. Dark flashbacks of her past agony begin to flood her mind. She begs Rupert to stop. She cannot forgive him, and she screams at the top of her lungs to end his confession. Sir Alaric and the valet hear her scream and burst in, but it is already too late. Alastair has collapsed from the sheer stress. Rupert immediately shouts for a royal physician to tend to her. Far away, the Duke senses something is wrong. Meanwhile, the doctor finds nothing physically broken, yet she remains unconscious. She is trapped in a deep trance. The physician warns the prince that she needs rest and a change of scenery. She is too weak to travel, so Rupert sends word to the Duke and decides to stay at the manor. While waiting for her father to arrive, he makes himself at home in her chambers, watching over her bed. He leans against a desk, knocking over a stack of private letters. What exactly is she hiding from him? Now, you and I can see the jealousy in his eyes as he discovers those letters from Lord Edmund. He storms to the training grounds to find Alaric, asking if the girl truly has knightly potential. Alaric defends her fiercely, promising the prince that she will one day become the greatest knight in the realm. Accepting this, the prince challenges Alaric to a duel. Their swords clash violently as the two men go all out. Rupert draws blood, shouting at Alaric for losing focus. He knows the knight was too distracted by thoughts of Alistair. In that moment, Alaric realizes his feelings for her go far beyond mere friendship. This was his first mistake. He has never lost focus in a duel before, but there is no time to process his growing heart. The Duke has returned. Frantic with worry, he screams her name while bursting through every door in the estate. He is horrified to see his daughter's condition. Rupert informs him that she has refused both food and sleep. The Duke desperately tries to wake her, shaking her and shouting into the void of her catatonic trance. Failing that, he turns to anger, yelling that he coddled her too much and made her spirit far too weak. He bellows that a girl with such a fragile mind could never survive the path of a knight. She briefly awakens, whispering that he should be at the citadel, before slipping back into the dark abyss. The doctor insists she needs rest. The Duke apologizes for the scene and prepares to return to his duties. He leaves a final note by her bedside before departing for the capital to face the king's business. In her sleep, she sees visions of her younger self and a haunting silhouette of Lady Genevieve. What does it mean? Her dreams bridge the gap between her past tragedies and her uncertain future. She fears her old life was wasted. But then she realizes every ounce of pain has forged her into the strong woman she is today. She witnesses the events that transpired while she was unconscious and senses that Prince Rupert might truly care. After one final vision of herself, she wakes up drenched in a cold sweat, gasping for air. She finds a letter left behind and tears it open, discovering warm words of encouragement from Lord Edmund. His words remind her that she is loved by many. He is right. This simple truth proves her present life will not be a repeat of her tragic past. The Duke rushes back in, and she begs to return to the citadel to finally reveal her secrets. She has finally changed her fate. Before they depart, she goes searching for Sir Alaric one last time. And just as she turns, Alaric throws, "So what do you and I make of this sudden move?" "All right, you and I are diving into a world of knights, where one sword stroke changes everything." He simply tells her he is relieved she is safe. Alice immediately notices how Cedric's demeanor has shifted. His tone is completely different, but she chooses to stay quiet until they are finally settled inside the carriage, heading back toward the city. Alice finally tells Cedric that there is something very important she needs to share with him. A sudden bump in the road throws him right onto her. They both freeze as Cedric frantically checks to see if she is injured. They realize how close they are just as a guard says the carriage wheel is completely stuck. Since they are stranded, he suggests a walk. Soon, Alice and Cedric stumble upon a breathtaking meadow. They enjoy the view together, though Alice still wonders if Cedric will keep acting so strangely. Suddenly, Cedric calls her name. He clearly has something heavy on his mind, but just as he tries. Now pay attention to this moment. What on earth was he about to confess to her? Alice asks him to finish his thought, but Cedric deflects, asking if she had anything to say. Alice admits she needs a break from training for a while. They eventually agree to meet each other again in exactly 2 months. They part ways at the capital. Cedric wonders if he will ever find the courage to confess. Back at the Sterling Manor, Alice reveals the truth of her past life to her father, William. He tries to process the impossible, but she quickly claims it was all just a vivid dream. William listens closely as she describes Juliana, the girl everyone believed was the true maiden of prophecy. Lord William accepts her story without question, relieved to finally understand the burden crushing his daughter. He realizes the dream was so intense it made her ill, proving just how serious this is. Such a supportive father. He asks her to come to him first next time, and she thanks him. After tucking her in, William reflects on the haunting look Alice had while she was in that trance. He thinks of his late wife and his helplessness during her passing. Meanwhile, news reaches the palace. Prince Alaric hears that Alice is back home recovering. He wonders if she has finally opened his letter. He begins to suspect that her attempts to break their engagement might actually have a much deeper motive. The prince's advisor suggests the letter is a ploy to remove Alaric so she can seize the throne. Alaric doesn't believe she would do that, but you and I know the truth about Alice's past life, right? Alaric thinks back to their very first meeting as children, when he was meeting with the king. As the prince headed to a meeting with the king, he was surprised to find a very young Alice sprinting through the halls. She crashes right into him, leaving the young prince absolutely mesmerized by her striking, silver hair. She pulled him along to tea with her mother. Alaric remembers how they both showed him affection. It was a warmth he never felt. Now, he realizes his own cold behavior is why she fears him. He wonders if he can change. Meanwhile, Alice and her father prepare for a meeting with Duke Lancaster. William explains that the first squad serves House Lancaster, while the second squad belongs to House Sterling. The Duke and William ask Alice if she would like to become an official squire under Lancaster. Of course, she must first prove her worth by passing a very rigorous entrance examination. Filled with excitement, Alice dons her new uniform and travels straight to the Lancaster estate. The Duke greets her alongside a mysterious female knight. Alice wonders who this formidable woman could be. She meets Sir Silas and Squire Leonora. Alice realizes Leonora's family name is one she knows well. The Duke heads out on patrol, leaving Alice alone with the rest of the high-ranking knights. The moment he is gone, the two knights immediately relax, breaking into easy smiles and laughter. Leonora congratulates Silas because Alice is taking his place as the Duke's personal squire. Silas is just thankful to be free, since the Duke is a notoriously harsh teacher. Leonora is thrilled. She is especially happy to have another girl around. They quickly start showing Alice the ropes. They get into a playful spat. Leonora loves being a squire because there is zero actual responsibility involved. Silas argues that being a knight is far better. Alice loves seeing how close they are. They head to the training grounds. Meanwhile, you and I just saw a messenger arrive for Julian. Count Hamel keeps sending letters, but Alendes never replies. The messenger says he needs an answer immediately. Stick with me, because his response is savage. Alendes burns the letter right in front of the messenger. He wants zero alliance with the Count. In fact, he calls the man a total fool for even trying. Once the servant leaves, Alendes thinks of Tia. He wonders why she hasn't written back and admits he misses her. Our boy has fallen hard for her. Suddenly, a knock at the door breaks his deep thoughts about Lady Tia. It is his mother, and she is worried. He has barely eaten or slept, and she saw the servant flee. Alendes just brushes her off. He tells her not to worry about him, but his sharp tone says otherwise. He yells that she should worry about his brother instead, then goes right back to dreaming about Lady 𝒂𝒆𝒂. He has gifts and stories ready for her. While reading, Alendes even sees a beautiful vision of her standing there. He decides to write to her immediately. Meanwhile, the emperor hears of 𝒂𝒂𝒃's latest achievements and wants an audience. 𝒂𝒂𝒃 thinks he wants to talk about her becoming a knight, but the ruler has something else on his mind. Instead, the emperor asks if she visited her family estate. Then, he starts making small talk about the seasons. He asks if she likes the winter. She says yes, and he notes how different she is from someone else. 𝒂𝒂𝒃 leaves feeling confused. However, she is too busy working as a knight's aide to dwell on that weird chat. Later that night, after a long day of training, 𝒂𝒂𝒃 completely collapses onto her bed in total exhaustion. She asks her maid, Lena, if any letters arrived. There are none, and she wonders why Alendes is silent. She decides to send him a message before winter. Little does she know, Prince Rouv is also planning a visit. Now pay attention, because the prince is acting very strange. His servant notices his mood always shifts before winter. He wonders if 𝒂𝒂𝒃 knows this about the prince. Meanwhile, she is busy with all her intense squire duties. She invites her friends over for a visit. Suddenly, she spots a flash of bright red hair in the crowd. She rushes over, thinking it is 𝒂𝒂, but it is actually 𝒂𝒂, his older and much more serious brother. She asks how 𝒂𝒂 is doing. 𝒂𝒂 says he is physically fine, but he is training non-stop and distracted. 𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒅 worries, but she assumes he is just focused on his knighthood. She feels like everyone is too busy. Everyone is drifting apart lately. Meanwhile, another letter addressed to Tia arrives at the Manhwa family estate. You and I saw this coming, right? Her father, Kirian, takes the letter and locks it in a secret drawer. Lena asks if she should tell her mistress, but Kirian orders her to keep quiet about the whole thing. He wants no contact between them. After all, 𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒅 is still officially engaged to the Crown Prince 𝒂𝒂𝒏. He sends a letter to 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆, telling him to stay away to stop rumors. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 is absolutely furious at this. He feels like Kirian is stealing her from him. In his rage, he sends a secret word to Count Hamel. It looks like 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 is changing his plans. One day, while writing, 𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒅 realizes she has run out of ink. She searches her drawers and finds a hidden stack of letters from 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆. She finds it very odd. Why would he ignore her if he wrote all these? She asks Lena again, and the maid finally confesses. Lena admits that Kirian has been hiding everything. He claimed Tia needed to focus on training without any distractions. 𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒅 immediately travels to the 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆's estate to see her friend. Upon arrival, his mother greets her. She is relieved to see the girl. She hopes 𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒅's presence will finally get 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 to come out. 𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒅 knocks on the door, but 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 coldly tells her to go away. His voice sounds hollow and broken. She is shocked by his harsh tone. When she enters, 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 thinks she is just another vision from his mind. He asks her out loud if he is seeing her because he misses her so much. He looks devastated. He asks if she can ever forgive him for his lack of faith. 𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒅 cries out, startling him. She begs for his forgiveness too. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 tackles her in a massive hug, so happy that his Tia is back. Tia is shocked by his harsh tone. When she enters, 𝒊𝒕𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 is stunned and thinks she is another vision. Because he has seen hallucinations before, he assumes this 𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒅 is just a trick of his own mind. He wonders out loud if he sees her because his heart is so lonely. He looks completely broken. He asks if she can ever forgive his lack of faith. 𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒅 cries out, finally snapping him to reality. Trust me, you and I just witnessed a reunion that was a long time coming. He is so happy she is back. Stick with me. We're about to witness some serious drama in the Manhwa house. Julian rushes to entertain her, but Alice spots a letter with a mysterious noble seal on his desk. Julian shows her rare blue meadow flowers from his estate that turn the tea a beautiful light blue. Alice sprinkles a special powder that turns the tea pink, as the two enjoy their quiet time together. Finally noticing the hour, Alice asks if Julian will keep training, but he says he is too busy. He explains that he must spend his time assisting his father with the heavy duties of the estate. Alice asks if that explains the mountain of books in his study, and Julian confirms the truth. She tells Julian not to overwork himself before he insists on walking her to her carriage personally. As they ride in silence, Alice feels a heavy intuition that this will be their final meeting. Back at the estate, Duke Arthur waits coldly at the gate, dismissing Julian immediately after her return. Duke Arthur wants to ask Alice a question, but Alice needs to ask him something first. Pay attention here, because this confrontation is where everything finally comes to a head. She asks why he hid Julian's letters from her, especially while watching them grow closer in silence all this time. Alice fears her father wrote something cruel to Julian, since Julian believed he would never see her again. He had even broken down in tears earlier. Duke Arthur stands firm in his difficult protective decision. He knows Alice is different from other noble girls because she is betrothed to the crown prince. He tells her that rumors will follow her everywhere, regardless of who she chooses to meet with. He explains he only allowed Julian and Tristan near because they actually managed to make her happy. Arthur reminds her that she was the one who banned Julian before the prince's big investiture ceremony. Seeing her conditions spiral, Arthur decided to keep Julian away to prevent her from being hurt again. You have to admit, his heart was in the right place even if his methods were extreme. Arthur apologizes for hiding the mail and offers to show her the unopened letters right now. Alice understands his protective judgment and apologizes for worrying him, but she refuses the letters for now. She chooses to wait until her father thinks she is truly ready to handle their contents. Arthur asks if she hates him for his secrets, but Alice just chuckles at the thought. She tells her father she could never hate him, and honestly, we love the Monique family bond. Meanwhile, Julian rides home in his carriage, thinking about how much Alice has changed since the start. You and I can both see it. Lord Julian is officially head over heels for her. He swears she is still his lady, but what does that mean for the Crown Prince's engagement? Speaking of the prince, word arrives the next day while Alice is working hard as a squire. Crown Prince Richard is returning to the capital early after inspecting the kingdom's distant northern borders. Alice wonders if his sudden return means major changes are coming for the royal army very soon. The palace is frantic upon Richard's arrival, and he finally sees Alice in her uniform for once. Prince Richard reports to his father first, and the king is clearly pleased with his son's findings. He tells Richard to go rest, dismissing him after a long and successful journey across the realm. Richard's servant organizes meetings with the kingdom's council, but keeps one day free for the prince. Alice and the prince pass each other in the hall, yet neither of them says a single word. Later that night, Alice is too restless to sleep and decides to walk through the quiet estate. She sees a door ajar and spots a tall figure standing alone in the darkened parlor room. Fearing an intruder, she realizes it is just Duke Arthur speaking to a portrait of her mother. Lady Alinor passed 7 years ago, but Arthur still talks to her image every single night. He tells the painting how well Alice is doing and how much she has truly grown up lately. He mentions she wants to inherit the family name, but he fears she will lose her peace. He does not want to pass down the curse of their lineage. Alice is absolutely shocked. Trust me, the truth awaits. All right, you and I are jumping into House Montgomery, where family loyalty comes at a bloody price. The Duke hates this life for his daughter, but exhausted, he retires, leaving 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 alone with her heavy thoughts. She never knew her father saw his duty as a curse, making her wonder why he still supports her nightly dreams. As she prepares to inherit the family title, Tia wanders into the study and spots a portrait of her mother. Her mother passed away when she was 6, and 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 doesn't have many memories of the woman she barely knew. All she knows for sure is that her father rarely speaks a word about her. The next morning marks the anniversary of her death, and 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 greets the Duke while dressed in her uniform. He is taking a personal day without explaining why, so 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 heads off to the citadel to begin her duties. While working, she can't stop wondering why her mother is such a forbidden topic, feeling the weight of the secret. She can't let on that she knows the truth, because then her father would realize she was eavesdropping on his private, vulnerable moment the night before. Noticing her distraction, the Duke of Rochester suggests she take a walk outside since it's such a beautiful, sunny afternoon. In truth, even the Duke is secretly worried about 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆, knowing exactly what day it is and unsure if she remembers. Watch this carefully. This is where a ghost from her past suddenly appears in the garden. Prince Reuel enters carrying a bouquet of calla lilies, her mother's favorite, and coldly asks if she is still plagued by nightmares. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 is completely frozen. She has no idea what he's talking about or how she should even respond. Awkwardly, the prince drops the subject, while a servant arrives to take the flowers away to his royal private chambers. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 mentions that the lilies were her mother's favorite, wondering if they happened to be the prince's favorite flower as well. He confirms they were indeed her mother's, and a shocked 𝒊𝒆𝒕 asks if the prince actually knew her mother personally. Prince Reuel dodges the question, asking her instead how she even knew today was the anniversary of her mother's passing. 𝒊𝒆𝒕 claims she found out by pure chance, and the two of them just stand there in a heavy, awkward silence. As snow begins to fall, they walk to a massive tree and admire it, though Rule notes it should have bloomed by now. He describes the legend of the Delph flower. If a couple shares white blooms from one branch, their love will surely come true. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 knows the legend well and pictures the beautiful scene, completely unaware that the prince is watching her very closely. You and I both know that the prince is hiding a massive crush right now. The prince takes his leave, but his parting words to 𝒂𝒆𝒂 are that she looks exactly like her mother. That night, 𝒂𝒆𝒂 tries to visit the study containing her mother's portrait, only to find the door firmly locked. She finds Sir Lionel and asks if he knew her mother, and upon hearing yes, she asks if she resembles her. Sir Lionel knows the Duke would never share this, so he suspiciously asks 𝒂𝒆𝒂 who exactly told her such a thing. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 admits the prince told her earlier that day, leading Sir Lionel to reveal why the prince remembers it so well. He was present at her mother's death. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 had no clue the prince was ever that close to her family. Neither her father nor the prince ever mentioned a word. Sir Lionel explains that when her mother passed, 𝒂𝒆𝒂 was devastated. To keep her from falling ill, the Duke forbade anyone from mentioning her mother again, burying the past entirely. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 wonders why Prince Rule was close enough to be there at the very end. Who was he to her mother? She falls asleep with questions swirling. The next day, young Cillian is training hard at his family's private practice grounds. His older brother, Cedric, stops by to ask if Cillian is pushing himself too hard, but the boy is completely focused. Cillian snaps at him for the interruption, but Cedric has news about 𝒂𝒆𝒂 that he knows his little brother is dying to hear. He reveals that 𝒂𝒆𝒂 has officially become a squire, serving in the 1st Squadron under their noble house. Cillian vows to train even harder now, much to his older brother's growing annoyance at his competitive energy. Meanwhile, 𝒂𝒆𝒂 prepares for her promotion exam. Letitia mentions a new prodigy in the royal administration. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 realizes she's talking about Alistair. Just then, Commander Rochester enters the room with a very determined Cillian trailing behind him. Cillian immediately grabs 𝒂𝒆𝒂's hand and excuses them both, dragging her away before anyone can even protest his move. The other knights whisper about how close they've become, which deeply worries the commander since scandalous rumors about the prince's fiancée could spread quickly throughout the busy citadel. As the citadel grows busier, Cillian is seen running with 𝒂𝒆𝒂 in tow until she finally stops him. She asks him where they are heading, and the two finally stop to catch up on their lives. You and I definitely need to see what's next because Cillian reveals he has a major secret to share. Stick with me. You and I are about to see Cassian become Alina's official superior next month. Alina teases him, arguing she joined the squadron first and should be the one in charge of their rivalry. After their playful banter, Cassian invites Alina for a quiet dinner at a restaurant he knows in town. As they leave, a voice stops them. Lord Julian is back, and Alina offers her congratulations on his appointment. Julian thanks her for the kind words, but Alina can't help but notice something very strange about this timeline. In her previous life, these boys became men before gaining such status, but now they are both 16 years old. She wonders what caused things to move so fast, but Julian's sudden questioning of Cassian's behavior breaks her focus. Julian warns Cassian that holding Alina's hand so publicly could be easily misinterpreted by others at the royal court. Cassian dismisses it as Julian being boring, but Alina admits the warning actually makes quite a bit of sense. The tension is thick, especially when Cassian asks if Julian plans on joining their dinner party as well. Julian tags along, and the meal becomes a total battlefield as Alina watches them duel over every single appetizer. It is a dinner and a show for our girl as she watches them fight over the smallest things. Meanwhile, it seems Crown Prince Rupert has fallen ill back at the royal citadel after wandering in the snow. Now pay attention here, because the prince's own servant asks why he would do such a reckless thing. Rupert doesn't have an answer, initially thinking it was to see that look of wonder on Alina's face again. He claims he just wanted to ask her about a letter, but I think we all know the truth. While Rupert recovers, the king meets with Julian's father, the Duke of Valois, to discuss their future political moves. The king calls for an emergency meeting tomorrow to finalize the marriage pact between Prince Rupert and Lady Alina. The next morning, Alina meets her two friends at the palace before her formal audience with the king begins. Julian invites her to a grand winter garden party his mother is hosting, and she's genuinely thrilled to attend. To Sir Cassian's shock, Lord Julian even invites him to the gathering as well. Once Alina leaves, Cassian asks what Julian is plotting, reminding him that he is still owed a major favor. Cassian delivered a secret letter for Julian once, and Julian agrees, though he threatens to break Cassian's hand. The two boys have a cold standoff, threatening each other while Alina wonders what they are discussing. Meanwhile, Commander Silas is meeting with the king to discuss the concerns within the palace walls. The king asks if the commander is worried about the rumors linking his son to the duke's daughter. The lords debate Alina's future, and the king suggests letting Alina inherit the Vane family name and noble title. The dukes aren't so sure, fearing such a massive break in tradition would cause a revolt among the nobility. And here is where it gets wild. A servant bursts in with news of a sudden disaster at the palace. Just as Prince Rupert is about to give his opinion, a servant suddenly bursts through the royal door. There is a fire in the western wing, and the palace is buzzing to figure out what to do. Cassian and Julian chase after her, but they stop when they see the center tree engulfed in flames. Alina is frozen in pure horror, watching the heart of the garden burn as the heat intensifies. She watches in deep sorrow, remembering how this garden was her only sanctuary in her tragic previous life. Now that refuge is turning to ash, and she realizes she cannot let it all go without a fight. Moving closer to the inferno, she spots silver flowers beginning to bloom on the burning branches of the tree. She finds her voice, screaming orders to the guards and servants on how to properly smother the fire. Lord Julian and Sir Cassian find her, but they are held back from entering the garden. The council arrives at the scene, and Alina's father is absolutely terrified to see his child in such danger. Suddenly, the fire leaps and catches the hem of her dress, and everyone watches in pure terror for her. Thinking fast, she grabs a knight's blade and slashes through the burning silk to save herself from the flames. Alina continues leading the containment effort until the flames die down, leaving her exhausted and covered in ash. She looks up to realize the king has been watching her every move with a very strange expression. He tells the council that their meeting about her engagement never happened. He needs more time to observe her. You and I just witnessed a massive turning point for her. She is no ordinary lady. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 apologizes to her father, Earl Manhwa, for the trouble, but he is just relieved she is safe. All right, you and I are about to see if 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 can handle this royal pressure. Prince Ruv watches from afar, confused by her strength. He cannot understand her fragility versus her courage. Soon, it is finally time for the gathering at the house of Veritas. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 asks Elendes about his mother's health, as the lady often appears quite frail in these social circles. Elendes promises she is fine, but their private talk is quickly cut short by the arriving noble guests. Lady Ilia is staring at her, which unsettles 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 until Sir Cassian makes his very grand entrance. Sir Cassian sits right by Elendes and 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆, shocking everyone since a high-ranking noble should follow protocol. Ilia asks why 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 has been absent lately. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 simply says she was resting at their country estate. When Lady Ilia grills her about why Sir Cassian was there too, the arrival of tea luckily stops the interrogation. During tea, 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 hands Sir Cassian some sugar to sweeten his cup, a gesture that does not go unnoticed. Not wanting to be outdone, Elendes asks for some sugar too. The other nobles begin to whisper. Lady Neve mentions the rumors. Now pay attention here, because this gossip is about to get dangerous for Our Lady. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 asks for clarification. Neve begins to whisper that 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 and Sir Cassian are secretly seeing each other. Before she can finish, Elendes glares at Neve with such intensity that the poor girl nearly chokes. Terrified, Neve spills tea all over her gown. Elendes quickly offers to escort her out of the room. As they leave, 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 wonders why 𝒊𝒐 looked so scared, but 𝒃𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 just lets out a dark laugh. He calls the whole thing a performance, but refuses to explain, choosing instead to charm the other ladies. 𝒂𝒂𝒂 is left puzzled by the unfinished rumor and decides she needs to investigate the gossip herself. Outside, 𝒂𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆 drops his polite mask and asks 𝒊𝒐 if she knows how dangerous the mines are. He mentions the investigation into her family's land, a subtle threat that leaves her absolutely frozen. You and I both know 𝒂𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆 has a hidden dark side. Soon, the grand New Year celebration finally arrives at the palace. At the palace gala, 𝒂𝒂𝒂 meets Alexis, the eldest son of House Veritas and 𝒂𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆's older brother. He is eager to know her, but before they can talk, 𝒂𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆 arrives to drag him away. Once the Veritas brothers leave, 𝒂𝒂𝒂 realizes she feels like a total stranger in this sea of nobles. Suddenly, she feels a heavy gaze. She turns around and finds someone watching her from the palace shadows. It is Duke Zena, leader of the rival faction. 𝒂𝒂𝒂 wonders what this powerful man wants with her now. Her father quickly pulls her away, guiding her to pay her respects to the emperor for the year. Inside, the emperor skips the formalities, wanting a very private word with the earl and his brave young daughter. He praises 𝒂𝒂𝒂 for her bravery during the fire, but then brings up something much more serious. He has heard the whispers about her, and 𝒃𝒂𝒂𝒂 fleeing to the Manhwa estate as secret lovers. Earl Karen tries to apologize, but the emperor stops him. He knows these lies are just political traps. He warns 𝒂𝒂𝒂 to stay vigilant. The bonds between their families are being tested by their many enemies. As they exit the chambers, 𝒂𝒂𝒂 and her father are blocked by none other than Duke Zena. The Duke calls the rumors shameful. 𝒂𝒂𝒂 fires back, calling his words nothing but blatant defamation. Zena snaps at her to watch her mouth, but Earl Manhwa steps in to defend his daughter. He puts the Duke in his place. Seriously, this man is easily winning the Best Dad award again. A servant calls Zena for his meeting. He leaves with a parting shot about the kingdom's downfall. 𝒂𝒂𝒂 asks why he called her 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒄𝒏, but her father tells her to ignore his venom. He calls it mere slander. Needing a moment, 𝒂𝒂𝒂 slips away to find some peace in the palace gardens. There, she overhears two noblewomen gossiping about her scandalous ties to both 𝒃𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 and 𝒂𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒆. She recognizes Lady Karina among them, but Lady 𝒂𝒐𝒂𝒂 steps in to defend 𝒂𝒂𝒂's honor as future empress. 𝒂𝒂𝒂 realizes she has ignored the social battlefield for too long. It is time to fight back. When her father comes to collect her, she asks him for a very specific and dangerous favor. Back at the manor, Karen hands her a secret list detailing every noble house in their faction. He tells her to burn the evidence. Trust me, you and I are not ready for what comes next. All right, you and I are diving into 𝒂𝒂𝒂's plan as she burns her books after a long night of intense study. She's finished with the rumors and decides to climb the social ladder instead, attending a massive gala with her father soon after. At the Nguyen Manor, 𝒂𝒂𝒂 spots Lady Nguyen and realizes this woman is the perfect ladder she needs to reach a higher status. With her father's blessing, our lead follows the Viscountess deeper into the grand manor, ready to make her big move. 𝒂𝒂𝒂 greets the local ladies and runs into Lady 𝒂𝒂𝒂, who tries to apologize for that mess at Lady Olinda's party. But 𝒂𝒂𝒂 plays it cool, telling her not to worry at all while acting thrilled to finally have a female friend. It's all a calculated move, though, as she secretly plans to use 𝒂𝒂𝒂 to secure her place in the high social circles. 𝒂𝒂𝒂 introduces her to the rest of the group, and 𝒂𝒂𝒂 knows these wealthy young women are the key to killing those rumors. Kieran watches from the shadows, impressed by how smart she is, but he can't help feeling a bit worried about her tactics. During the carriage ride home, he makes sure to compliment 𝒂𝒂𝒂 on her performance, even if he still looks a little bit uneasy. 𝒂𝒂𝒂 worries her real friends might be disgusted by her scheming, but Kieran reminds her that true friends will always know her heart. Soon, invitations go out to all the different factions for a grand tea party, hosted by the legendary House Manhwa. Lady 𝒂𝒂𝒂 and her followers aren't invited, but she accepts it, curious to see what Tia can actually pull off. At the party, 𝒂𝒆𝒂 is a natural, charming her new friends while 𝒂𝒂 shows off a stunning design for a brand new hairpin. The group wants Tia to fund a business for them, and one lady in the group is particularly desperate to make it happen. She wants to beat her brother and become the sole heir to the merchant foundation, proving she's the better choice. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 agrees to the deal, but refuses to take any money, not wanting a silly profit to come between their new friendship. Pay attention here, because while her plan goes smoothly, Prince 𝒂𝒏 is busy meeting with his top military commanders. The Duke mentions how well 𝒂𝒆𝒂 is doing socially, but the prince looks incredibly worried about her for some reason. He orders his men to make sure Tia doesn't overwork herself, but they have no clue how. Everyone in the room is shocked by the prince's sudden change in attitude, especially since he used to be such a brat. Don't get me wrong, he's still a bit spoiled, but he clearly cares about 𝒂𝒆𝒂's feelings more than anyone ever thought was possible. His servant, Hammond, suggests that the prince attend the knighting ceremony since 𝒂𝒆𝒂 is definitely going to be there that day. In fact, Carson and 𝒂𝒆𝒂 are already at the ceremony, waiting for the big moment to finally begin for the young knight. Carson is bursting with excitement and has been sticking to 𝒂𝒆𝒂 like glue leading up to this very special occasion. Even the emperor notices their closeness and tasks 𝒂𝒆𝒂 with organizing the entire knight's library before the ceremony can even start. It's an impossible job with books piled to the ceiling, and the court is stunned that the emperor would punish her. Everyone searches for her during the event, but is anyone actually brave enough to help her out? The ceremony moves forward, but 𝒂𝒏 is frantic, knowing 𝒂𝒆𝒂 is stuck working in that dusty library alone. As the time for Carson's knighting draws near, Prince 𝒂𝒏 suddenly bolts out of the room, leaving everyone in total shock. He rushes to the library and finds 𝒂𝒆𝒂, telling her it's not too late to attend the ceremony as he grabs her hand. You and I are watching them race back to the hall, making it just in time for the very end of it. Prince 𝒂𝒏 congratulates the new knights and gives a special thanks to 𝒂𝒐𝒐𝒏 and Carson for being such loyal friends to his fiancée. He specifically mentions Carson, saying he trusts him with 𝒂𝒆𝒂's safety, essentially marking his territory and showing he knows what's up. This move confirms he's fully aware of how close they've become, and he isn't going to just sit idly by. The prince invites everyone to a massive victory banquet, but as the party starts, a dark plot begins to brew. A group of nobles plan to get rid of 𝒂𝒆𝒂 to force a political marriage, but the emperor is already onto them. He knows they're up to no good, while 𝒂𝒐𝒏 is absolutely fuming that 𝒂𝒆𝒂 showed up with the prince. He thinks 𝒂𝒏 is trying to steal her away from him, and he is definitely not happy about this turn of events. 𝒂𝒐𝒏 is too busy with work to intervene, while 𝒂𝒆𝒂 is back at the library, still trying to finish the emperor's task. She runs into Sir Heron, one of the prince's men, who is shocked by the mountain of work she's facing. He offers to take her books if she carries the prince's tea instead, claiming she's heading the wrong way to the library anyway. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 agrees, having no idea that Heron is secretly playing matchmaker between her and the prince to help them get closer. She arrives at the prince's private chambers, only to find him fast asleep after working himself to total exhaustion. And that's where we leave it, as 𝒂𝒆𝒂 watches him sleep, realizing he was punished for helping her. All right, you and I are diving back into a world where every choice could rewrite history. Let's see where Althea's journey goes. Roland looks so peaceful asleep, but Althea knows her brother Julian is leaving the kingdom soon. There is no time for what-ifs. While in the prince's study, she discovers a dusty old volume, a record of every noble bloodline in the entire kingdom. She remembers Duke Sterling calling her family trash. Suddenly, the prince stirs. Roland is awake and catches her red-handed. Althea stammers an apology for snooping, but the prince just brushes it off with a surprisingly gentle and calm smile. He thanks her for the tea and tells her she is dismissed for now. He will call for her if he needs a helping hand. Is the cold prince finally turning over a new leaf? Roland sends her away and gets back to his endless paperwork. Outside, she walks right past Cedric. He wants to talk, but she is too deep in thought about that mysterious book. The House of Seymour was only a minor barony, but it was definitely listed as a branch of 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 family tree. Even more shocking, her own mother was part of that house. The mystery of her heritage is finally starting to unravel. Now pay attention, because this family secret is about to change everything. Why did Sterling call her bloodline vulgar? Her father's knights reveal the truth. Her mother was actually the very last descendant of the noble House of Seymour. They served House Montrose for generations. Turns out, her father Kaelin actually broke off a royal engagement to marry her. His original fiancée was Duchess Isabella, the emperor's sister. 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 decides to wait for her father to explain the rest. Founding day is tomorrow. As 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 gets ready with her maids, a sudden snap echoes through the room. Disaster strikes. Her favorite hairpin is broken. Why was it made so poorly in the first place? It makes no sense. Alice and Catherine arrive with bad news. The kingdom's best craftsman is refusing to work with any of them right now. This master jeweler has rejected every single offer from the major noble houses. 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 won't take no for an answer. She gathers the girls and heads deep into the city's crowded commoner district to find him personally. Alastair and Cedric tag along for protection. The five of them trek deep into the slums to find the workshop. The craftsman, Victor, is a total grouch. He is obsessed with perfection and hates dealing with the upper class. He tells 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 she is just another stuck-up noble. He has turned down plenty like her before, and he will again. She offers him his own fancy boutique, but Victor isn't buying it. He thinks nobles only care about money and greed. The other girls want to quit, but 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 sees the truth. His terrible workspace is actually stifling his creative genius. She returns to his doorstep every single day for a week, hoping to break his shell. Every morning, he just shouts and sends her away. He is acting just as crazy as day one. On the final day, things get physical. In the scuffle to push her out, Victor accidentally cuts 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 hand quite badly. Alastair and Cedric lose it. They are ready to take his hands for that, but 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 orders them to stand down. You and I saw that coming, right? Their dark side finally comes out when she is hurt. The group retreats to rethink. Alice and Catherine suggest making a public announcement to find a different jeweler instead. Even the boys agree that Victor is a lost cause. Convincing a man that's stubborn seems like an absolute impossibility right now. But 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 isn't giving up. She finds one of his pieces at a street stall and buys it. She brings it straight to Victor the very next day. She tells him she is a genuine fan. She praises his talent and asks for just 3 months of his time. 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 promises him total creative freedom and full financial support. Whatever he needs, he will get it without any questions asked. To everyone's absolute shock, Victor actually accepts the deal. Alastair realizes he doesn't know 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 as well as he thought. He is determined to close that distance between them. Founding day has finally arrived. The capital is packed with visitors, and the palace is a whirlwind of activity. Foreign princesses are arriving from every corner of the world. Everyone knows they are here to win the prince's heart. 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 feels a twinge of excitement, but she forces herself to focus on her duties as a lady-in-waiting. She heads to Duke Ross's office to deliver the latest reports on the royal knight deployments. She bumps into Prince Roland instead. He tells her to send the Duke to his private quarters immediately. But then he stops her. He asks if anything unusual has happened to her in the last few days. 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒅 is confused and says everything is fine. Roland just sighs and tells her to forget he even asked. So what do you and I think? Is the prince finally catching feelings? All right, you and I are diving into the royal jubilee, where Lady Heiress just spots 2 young debutantes. Lady Isabella and Lady Roseline are arguing again over which of them the palace servants should attend to. First, Heiress just steps in, asking Lady Roseline if she is actually a blood relative of the powerful Duke. Sterling, she claims she is, but everyone knows the Duke has no granddaughters. Heiress then asks if she knows who she is and what family she represents. When Roseline confirms it, Heiress shames her for causing Such a petty fuss. She tells Roseline to remember her status and orders the staff to bring more help. To serve everyone at once. While Aristia solved the crisis, Roseline is fuming after being humiliated in front of everyone today. Now pay attention, because as Aristia takes orders from Grand Duke Alaric, she runs into some dangerous new faces. Who exactly are these women? The leader of the group that Aristia meets is Princess Moira of House Yeton. She is the eldest royal of that kingdom and is looking to cause a little trouble. She introduces herself to the Grand Duke and apologizes for coming across as quite rude to him at first. Her status is equal to a noble in her land, however, being a royal family member means she feels above Aristia. She wants to make sure Aristia kneels, but before she can, Prince Julian passes by. Moira immediately drops her game with Aristia in favor of greeting the prince. Moira puts on a sweet performance, telling the prince he can use her nickname, Mona, as a favor. But Prince Julian is totally unimpressed. Moira is persistent, though, and since she came to marry Julian, she wants to charm him. She asks him to spare some time for her, but he declines, claiming he is busy. The prince leaves and Moira chases after him, but not before she shoots a wicked glance at Aristia while watching them go. She is definitely sneaky, and Sir Cedric thinks so too. He tells Aristia that Moira is aiming for the crown, and that the high aristocrats support her as Julian's new fiancée. Aristia realizes she may have to serve this woman as a knight one day. I know what you're thinking, but Cedric thinks the Empire is better with Aristia as Empress since Moira is too arrogant for the people. For the next few days, Aristia and the rest of the guards are busy escorting nobles across the celebrations. Sir Arthur is not having much fun acting as a guard. But while he is complaining to Aristia, they both spot a mysterious, strangely dressed figure in the garden. They watch as Arthur's brother, Silas, runs to the mystery person and leaves with them toward a back road leading away from the palace. Aristia immediately decides to follow them and pulls Arthur along behind her. They quickly catch up to Silas and the figure, who is revealed to be a blonde woman. It is Princess Alina of House Rouvel. Aristia hastily introduces herself, and the princess explains she has been looking for a chance to befriend her. Aristia is glad, but she does not understand why a royal from a powerful nation like House Rouvel would want to be friends with her. Alina invites everyone for a meal, but Aristia thinks it is best to return to the palace as people are watching. The princess really wants to see the sights, so Arthur agrees to take her to dinner. Aristia and Silas follow, and don't look now, but it seems like Silas might have a crush on Princess Alina, don't you think? You can see it on his face as they dine together that evening. While the four of them dine, Moira is still trying to charm Prince Julian and getting upset. She sees a gift for Aristia that the prince has ordered and cannot understand why he prefers a knight over a princess. She's going to figure out what to do while she plots her next plan. Arthur, Silas, Aristia, and Alina finish their meals. As they leave, they bump into another noblewoman, Lady Beatrice. Alina points out that Beatrice seems interested in Arthur, but he is not interested at all. The princess then asks him what type of lady he likes. What will he say to that? Arthur says he likes a woman who resembles a sword, but he won't explain any further than that. Silas and the princess bid Arthur and Aristia farewell, with Silas getting her back inside for the evening. The next day, Aristia goes to visit Prince Julian as she has been told that he has a very special request, and that is where you and I leave it. Trust me, it's wild. All right, you and I are about to dive into some royal drama. Lady Alastair finds Prince Rupert completely exhausted. He is drowning in paperwork and hounded by 5 noble ladies for marriage. He just needs a break and some tea. While she brews it, Rupert asks about her gown for the royal gala. Usually, they coordinate colors for a united front. Alastair is shocked he still wants to match, considering the other potential brides attending. It is a bold move, honestly. She considers forest green, deep blue, or classic black. But before a choice is made, the prince's fatigue finally wins out. Rupert is so worn out from his duties that he falls fast asleep right there in the tea room. Later, Lord Elric is spotted with a faction of angry aristocrats. They are fuming because Alastair is gaining too much influence. Her new luxury hair accessory business is booming, and these nobles hate that they cannot control her rising wealth. Elric notes how much she has grown and realizes she might not need his protection anymore. His expression is complicated. Now pay attention here, because this is where Elric's loyalty starts looking real shaky. Is he actually joining her enemies? On day one of the gala, Alastair wears a light blue gown since Rupert mentioned she prefers darker tones. She assumes he will wear light colors to contrast her, but Rupert arrives in charcoal black. They miss the mark completely. Well, at least she tried. The two take to the dance floor, ignoring the jealous glares from the surrounding crowd. Rupert praises her tea and asks for more private meetings. Alastair is stunned by how pleasant he is being lately. It is a total shift from his usual cold self. Meanwhile, the other noble women are absolutely seething at their closeness. They praise the guest Princess Margaret's dancing, while cruelly making fun of Alastair's form on the floor. Alastair doesn't let them bother her. She knows none of this matters until Genevieve appears later in the timeline anyway. Even when they mock her for being a knight, she takes their words with a grain of salt. Princess Margaret gets bold and challenges Alastair to a sword duel. Apparently, the guest princess is quite the warrior too. Margaret declares that if she wins, she wants the custom shoes Rupert ordered specifically for Alastair. Talk about a petty prize. Alastair decides to walk away before the duel starts. While alone with her thoughts, she discovers a hidden secret room. Inside, she finds the aristocrats who have sided with Duke Sterling. Lord Elric is among them, but is he a spy? Alastair tries to get a better look at the room of conspirators, but her curiosity almost leads to disaster. The door creaks loudly, alerting everyone inside the chamber that someone is lurking right outside the secret meeting room. Suddenly, someone grabs Alastair and pulls her into the shadows. Her knights arrive just in time to cover her tracks. The nobles find nothing and leave. Alastair is left reeling from what she heard about a spy and Princess Margaret. Wait, you saw that too, right? Elric appearing out of nowhere is a red flag. He asks why she is alone. She wonders if he heard the conspirators, but decides to keep her mouth shut. She won't drag him into this mess. Elric asks if she is tired of the catty noble women and suggests they sneak outside for some fresh air. She refuses, telling him to at least enjoy one dance before she heads back. Next day, the knights are ready. They are hyping Alastair up, but she is nervous about the political fallout of defeating the Princess of York. Nevertheless, the duel begins as Prince Rupert watches. The ladies surrounding him ask who he is rooting for today. He coldly replies that he wants Princess Margaret to win. The duel ends, and it turns out Alastair has lost. She threw the fight on purpose to avoid embarrassing the Empire's royal guests. Margaret is thrilled with her hollow victory. She claims her prize, those custom shoes. Next day, Margaret decides to show off her footwear by dancing with Rupert. But something goes wrong. In the middle of the dance, the shoes snap. They weren't built for her feet. Rupert immediately excuses her to rest in her quarters. He is actually saving her from further public humiliation. It is nice to know he has matured a bit. Or has he? He later asks Alastair if she enjoyed the accident. Alastair is confused. She doesn't think the prince should be mixing his personal feelings with matters of the state. Finally, Rupert asks her straight up if she wants him to find another noble fiancé to replace her. She tells him that if it is for the good of the kingdom, it cannot be helped. That hits him hard. He isn't going to take that answer lying down. His expression is clouded with a mix of anger and sorrow. It is evident Rupert is hurt when she asks him to find a new bride. He is devastated. You can see the heartbreak on his face. Trust me, you and I need to see his next move. He cannot take this lying down. You and I see Lord Julian is crushed when Lady Beatrice asks him to find. Stick with me. You and I are diving into a royal drama where every choice matters. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆, seriously. Other princesses are dying for your spot, and you just shut him out like that. Lady Princha taunts Mora, mocking her desperate desire to become the prince's next fiancé. The tension is real. Arisja summons Sir Heron, hoping for a word with 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆, but the prince is swamped with royal duties. Karsine wonders if the prince ever stops working, even during the kingdom's grand foundation holiday. Meanwhile, Arisja reflects on their last meeting, feeling a sudden pang of regret for her coldness. In the royal chambers, Sir Heron delivers reports on neighboring realms while offering the prince some strategic advice. He suggests asking Lady Arisja for help against the rival princesses. As a subject, she cannot exactly refuse him. Good work, Heron. You definitely knew exactly when to keep your mouth shut just then. The ball turns sour as Arisja apologizes to Mora for the rumors surrounding her latest public humiliation. Ilya criticizes Arisja for bowing to such an arrogant princess, while Karina mocks Moira's haughty behavior. Arisja warns them to stop. Their petty drama could bring shame upon the entire empire and royal family. Needing some air, she finds a quiet corner of the palace gardens to clear her head. She finds the prince sleeping under a tree. Even resting, he looks dreamy, doesn't he? He wakes to the sound of her worrying. Arisja tries to call for a royal doctor immediately. But he catches her hand and begs her to stay. It is obvious the prince really wants her nearby. Usually, he is perfectly groomed, but today he looks uncharacteristically messy. Arisja assumes he must be falling ill. He asks if she enjoyed the ball. She lies, of course. She does not want to add to his stress. She wonders why the flowers haven't bloomed, so 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 has Sir Heron set up a ladder for her. He knows she wants to see them. Talk about effort. If he wanted to, he clearly would, right? She searches for silver flowers, but finds only buds, sharing her discovery with pure excitement. They have been here for hundreds of years. Despite a bit of sadness, she prepares to climb back down. But disaster strikes. She slips from the ladder, but the prince catches her with lightning-fast reflexes. Catch us next, sir. Honestly, we are all falling for him after a move like that. Days later, 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 visits Arisja and challenges Karsine to a chess match. 10 minutes later, total defeat. Karsine admits 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 is a master, but he is clearly frustrated by the loss. He storms out, claiming he cannot stand looking at 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆's smug face for another second. With Karsine gone, 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 presents a box of ribbons and starts gently brushing Arisja's hair for her. He suggests a festival visit. His soothing touch eventually lulls her into a deep, accidental slumber. She wakes to find him savoring the scent of her hair. He just smiles before heading out. Soon, the royal guard arrives with a summons. The prince wants to see her immediately. While they walk, 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 asks if she is still determined to take over her noble house. She says yes. Arisja is about to speak when the prince spots two intruders in the garden. Sir Heron identifies them as Princess Beatrice of Lisa and her personal knight, a man named Rion. Beatrice whispers about how terrified she has been lately, hiding in the shadows of the palace. She has been avoiding the prince's attention for a shocking reason. She is actually pregnant with the knight's child. It is a sweet romance, but the political implications here are absolutely terrifying. Why would the kingdom of Lisa send a pregnant princess to marry into the imperial family like this? To make matters worse, the two lovers plan to elope the second the festival comes to an end. 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 hears every word. If the other high lords find out, this could spark a full-scale war. The rain starts pouring. Heron urges them inside, but 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 has other plans for his lady. He drapes his royal robe over Arisja. By law, a knight shouldn't avoid rain while in uniform. But he doesn't care. He refuses to let her get soaked, especially since her outfit is far too thin. He is being protective, and honestly, we are totally here for it. And that's where we leave it. War is looming, and the stakes just got so much higher. All right, you and I are about to witness a fiancé candidate start a war over a secret child. What will Prince Rupert do? On the final day of the celebration, Alina visits Arisja to remind her that her father is the king's most trusted subject. She insists that as the girl of prophecy, Ārishta shouldn't let the other princesses roam free or take her rightful place. Ārishta realizes Alina isn't like the other girls who disrespect her. In fact, the noble ladies are actually on her side. They are ready to support her as the future queen, while Ārishta and her father kneel before the king and prince. Seated on their thrones, the king suddenly asks her who she thinks would be the best candidate for the prince's bride. She tells them that Priscilla is more suitable because she is remarkably calm and possesses the wisdom a queen truly needs. The king considers her advice and starts complimenting her outfit, from her flowery gown down to her matching silk shoes. He notes how her jewelry perfectly complements her appearance, but mentions that something very important is still missing from her. To her shock, the king gives her a royal tiara that only members of the true royal family may wear. In the hallway, Margaret notices the royal tiara and immediately starts accusing Ārishta of being far too ambitious for her station. However, Alina and the ladies come to her rescue before Margaret has any chance to hit her in a rage. Alina cannot stand Margaret humiliating her anymore and snaps, questioning her terrible behavior and her disregard for proper court customs. She even reminds her of the rumors she used to humiliate Ārishta after being rejected for what she never deserved. Now pay attention here, this is where it gets good. Margaret tries to strike back, but it completely backfires in her face. Margaret is about to slap her, but Ārishta grabs her hand, warning her never to lay a finger on her people. Then Margaret screams that she should be the queen instead. Honestly, can you believe the nerve of this girl? Prince Rupert has been watching from the start and sends Margaret back to her kingdom. What a shocking and sudden end. To everyone's absolute surprise, he then announces that he will not be choosing any of the 5 princesses as his bride. Does this mean we are finally seeing Queen Ārishta? The House of Monmouth has pledged its total loyalty to the crown. By wearing that tiara, Ārishta has been chosen to become the next queen as ordered by the king, rejecting all others. Every other lady is dismissed for valid reasons, including Priscilla, who had actually just disguised herself as a candidate. Ārishta finally understands why Priscilla was never cruel, but House 𝒂𝒊 has been caught illegally transferring wealth to another kingdom. That is against the empire's law, and so the king reminds Duke 𝒂𝒊 about the names of those executed 10 years ago. He warns him about the fates of Castle, Hadel, and Laurel, whose betrayal led them to the executioner's block a decade ago. As the celebration continues, Ārishta asks the king why he allowed the princesses to visit if Rupert never planned to marry. The king simply wants to respect the prince's decision to not name any of those foreign noblewomen as his future fiancé. Ārishta knows Rupert is always logical, and an alliance with Priscilla would have benefited the entire empire through a strong bond. She is still confused by the tiara's meaning, but suddenly the whole truth makes total sense to her. Girl, do you see it? He wants her instead. The dress, jewels, and shoes were all provided by him. Rupert steps closer and asks her to reconsider her heart because he has already decided that she will be his fiancé. It is an incredibly sly move, but we love that for her, right? Still, she often compares him to her past. She notices how he hesitates now when reaching out for her hand, or when asking about her thoughts and deep feelings. Even when Rupert asks her to stay with him, she cannot stop thinking about Jane and the threat of her return. She wonders if he will run to Jane if she appears, but let us not overthink things too much for now, everyone. The prince can feel her doubt and asks her to look at him for who he is right now, without the past. She lies when she says she recognizes him, but we have to wonder, why is she doing this to herself? The next day, Caspian asks for Priscilla's hand in marriage, but she turns him down despite his very long, romantic speech. She insists they cannot marry without even dating, because we definitely are not living in a fairy tale here. Priscilla asks him to date her first, proving that a rejection can actually be a blessing for some people. Ārishta feels quite down watching the happy couple, fearing she will never experience that kind of innocent and pure love again. She feels unable to return anyone's love now and will keep comparing the present to the past just to confuse herself. She finds herself drowning in a sea of suspicion and unease as she watches the lovebirds enjoy their newfound romance. The weight of the crown and her memories are pulling her down, making it impossible to see a clear future. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see exactly how she handles the pressure of the crown. Trust me, you and I have all felt that fear of being abandoned before. Alaric notices her looking at the happy lovers with such pure admiration, so he holds her hand and asks for his own chance. Julian just laughs it off, making her think it is just another prank. Seriously, how is she this dense? How can anyone be this oblivious? Even from afar, Prince Cedric saw Julian asking for Lady Alara's hand. They look so perfect dancing together that everyone nearby starts mistaking them for a real noble couple. They enter a theater to find a crowd gathered for a shadow play, but Lady Alara feels a strange chill. She cannot escape the darkness, no matter how hard she tries, because the shadow of her past always follows her. She keeps denying her memories, trapped in a state of total denial. Julian notices her distraction as the show ends. As they leave the theater, Julian notices how genuinely happy she is just to receive a simple flower. It is her first time receiving a gift like that, so she wants to take it home. Julian decides they should eat. While waiting for their meal, Julian takes his sweet time to buy a massive bouquet because he wants to be first. He wants to be the first man to give her such a gift. Then, he kneels down to confess his love. He doesn't care if she inherits her house one day. He is willing to wait as long as she needs him to. He suddenly rests his head on her shoulder like a child, looking for a mother's embrace to keep him safe. Alara knew about his feelings all along, but she has a heart made of fragile glass. I actually feel bad for Julian. He doesn't deserve to be hurt like that. Julian, come find us instead. She doesn't want to lose her only friend, but she refuses to lie to him about her true feelings. It was selfish of her to avoid giving an answer just because she didn't want to lose him forever. When Alara turned 10 again, she was suddenly showered with love from her father after years of neglect. That was when she first met Julian. She just wanted to hide inside her shell, safe from the world. Her father and servants are constantly knocking, worried sick about her, but she just can't stop crying in her room. She just rejected the very first person she ever called a friend back when they were only 10 years old. He dragged her back to the real world when she was all alone, becoming like a brother she followed blindly. He comforted her so warmly, but their bond was always doomed to be shattered by her heart of glass. What even is this unconditional loyalty? Let's stop and think if you've ever seen anything like it. Thanks to him, she was finally able to open her doors and let other people into her lonely life. She was happy, but her heart never truly skipped a beat for him. Ouch, that has to hurt Julian. After training, she would always play chess with Julian, but she never managed to win even a single game. He always used the bishop as his primary weapon, while she stayed obsessed with the rook and the knight. He pushed her to use powerful pieces like the queen, but in reality, that role just does not fit. She feels like a rook, hiding in the corners of the board, staying in the shadows like a silent castle. A castle that won't open for anyone, standing sturdy so it won't crumble until the true queen arrives. Julian was a child genius who could solve complex formulas by the time he was only 5 years old. Julian was a literal prodigy. Honestly, can we just copy and paste his brain genetics already? His parents only adored his younger brother, Leo. In truth, he hated them all until he heard her name by chance. His parents were discussing Alara as a bride for Leo, despite her engagement to the crown prince, Cedric. Why would his father want such a bride for his weak brother? Then, a brilliant plan finally struck him. He saw a chance to prove himself worthy as the heir of House Montfort, so he began his move. When they were 10, he started approaching her out of jealousy. That was when he saw the truth. He saw himself in Alara, especially in her eyes, which were clearly longing for a love she never received. He planned to turn that madness and obsession toward himself out of pure greed and a desperate need to keep her. Driven by that dark hunger, he took a fake oath and begged her to become his lady forever. Wait, hold on. You and I need to take back our sympathy because this guy is toxic. Lady Alara deserves better than a manipulator. He was sent far away to lead a relief mission. When he finally returned, he found Lady Alara was already close with Alaric. The jealousy was uncontrollable. You and I are about to see a hunter become the prey. He realized he didn't trap her. She captured him. Now I'm totally confused. Is this actual love or just a dark obsession? Honestly, someone needs to tell this man to make up his mind. The high nobles propose that House Atlantis joins their ranks with a grand ducal title. While Alaric hates helping these weak nobles, he sees this title as the perfect tool for his true goal. It's the best way to crush Marquis Thorn and claim Lady Eris. But unlike him, she wants to stand alone. Watch closely here. He knows she no longer obsesses over him, so he swallows his despair, pretending it's just hope. He is literally going insane because he can't let her go. He simply cannot breathe without her by his side. Isn't it ironic? He used to manipulate her obsession, but now he's the obsessed one. Talk about instant karma right there. Take that. Finally, the chaotic Foundation Day festival ends, which means summer is officially beginning in the kingdom. The knights prepare for a massive mock battle to build unity and sharpen their strategies for the coming season. Thanks to the tactics of Eris, Sir Cedric and 9 others from the 14th Squadron are awarded for their bravery. They receive badges and swords for their skill. It turns out our leading lady is quite the brilliant military strategist. Cedric handles the combat while she handles the brains. They're a perfect match, don't you and I agree? Prince Rufus is feeling torn. He's proud of her success, but he knows every achievement pulls her further away from him. After the event, her father takes her to the capital as a reward, hoping to cheer her up a bit. The Marquis is such a supportive dad, and let's be real, he is a seriously handsome gentleman for his age. The Marquis is confused when Eris orders several expensive formal suits and some stylish casual clothes. It is clear these clothes aren't for her. They are a surprise gift for her father instead. Eris notices her father is always in his stiff uniform, so she wants to see him in something more dashing. Since he's still young and handsome but living all alone, she wonders if he ever thinks about getting married again. Don't you worry, Eris, your dad's time will come. Meanwhile, the Marquis orders a special formal outfit for his daughter. He asks to embroider the house crest on the collar, officially marking her as the heir and future head of the family. Eris looks overjoyed. She can hardly believe her father has finally acknowledged her as his true successor. It's well deserved. Back at court, the nobles question Prince Rufus about the king's health after his recent collapse. He claims it was just the summer heat, but once the room is cleared, he pulls the chancellor aside for a secret. He orders Alaric's father to find High Priest Julian immediately. Wait, did the king actually pass away? Oh no. In town, Eris watches her father walk into a lonely alleyway, looking distant as if he's lost in another world. This alley, covered in old markings, holds the memory of the place he first met her mother. Back then, Genevieve was surrounded by thugs, and her plea for help sparked their first meeting. She was the Genevieve he cherished so deeply. Meanwhile, 3 ancient spells have been passed down through the Empire's history. One is the magic within the blood of House Thorn, famously known as the sacred blood oath with the royals. This vow, etched directly onto the heart, is a promise to serve the crown with absolute and unending loyalty forever. Nobody knows if breaking this oath means instant death or a kind of agony that is far worse than dying. It ensures House Thorn's unconditional service to the throne, but binding your own heart for a wish. That sounds heavy. It is basically a curse. If a subject is forced to obey through magic, can you even call that true loyalty? Something still feels off. If her mother was a lady of House Sonia, why was she living in the slums? Back at the palace, Sir Cedric is shocked to learn that his own father actually dated Eris's mother years ago. Most people assumed it was just a political marriage, but for him, it was actually love at first sight. Years ago, by royal decree, all members of House Sterling were executed, but Cedric's mother, Elinor, was still inside. In those days of betrayal and blood, a knight could have ended her life in a single heartbeat. But Elinor stood her ground with pride, even without a weapon. That was the moment he fell for her. Apparently, the look of pure disgust on Elinor's face shot right through his heart. Talk about strange taste. 2 months pass, and news arrives that Princess Beatrice of Lysa has officially wedded her personal palace guard. She married Sir Orion, the man who is also the father of her child. What a scandal. Orion is a knight now, so Cedric visits him often. And that's where you and I leave this story for now. All right, you and I are about to watch Lady Althea struggle as she learns the sword. Sir Cedric is way too busy training with Lady Rosalind to notice her right now. Althea can't stop worrying about the Beatrice situation and how the Kingdom of Lisburn might retaliate. Later that night, Althea and Cedric are heading home when their carriage suddenly grinds to a halt. A group of masked men with swords surrounds them. Don't you dare lay a hand on them. These are Lisburn assassins, sent to make the Ashford family pay for the insult to Lady Beatrice. Even though our heroes are skilled, the massive number of enemies puts them at a major disadvantage. Luckily, the royal guards charge in to save the day. About time you guys showed up. They can't have the young nobles getting hurt. The guards quickly join the fight to protect them. Meanwhile, at the palace, Prince Rowan is demanding the high priest's presence when a voice calls out. It's Father Thomas, the third root of the church, but back at the ambush, things turn deadly. Now watch this. Cedric blocks a lethal strike meant for Althea and takes the hit instead. Poor Sir Cedric. The night is late, but House Ashford is wide awake treating his brutal injuries. Once the chaos dies down, the doctor delivers some grim news about Cedric possibly losing his sight. Everyone is in total despair. They vow to make the villains pay for hurting our poor Cedric. Althea checks on Cedric and finds him covered in bandages. He looks badly wounded and completely exhausted. Guilt eats Althea alive as she sees his eyes covered. Cedric just tries to act tough regardless. He cracks a joke to lighten the mood, claiming he'll be back on his feet very soon. He's clearly just trying to stop Althea from blaming herself. He's an incredible friend, isn't he? He brushes the pain off and says he needs to sleep, not wanting her to worry more. As Althea leaves, he warns her to stay alert. She finally heads home with a heavy heart. Just as she arrives, Prince Rowan leaps from his carriage and runs straight toward her in panic. You saw that too, right? Rowan is finally showing some real concern for our Lady Althea. He updates her on the retaliation. Suddenly, Althea breaks down, sobbing that Cedric's injury is her fault. Rowan tells her it's not her fault and reveals he already sent the high priest to help. True to his word, Father Thomas arrives at House Ashford and treats Cedric's eyes with holy magic. After hearing the news, Althea cries with relief. She invites the prince inside to thank him properly. He declines, just happy to see she's safe, and leaves. Having someone care this much is special. The next day, Althea visits Cedric and is thrilled to find that his vision is restored already. After helping him with breakfast, she heads out and bumps into Lord Elias at the estate door. She later thanks Prince Rowan for his kindness. He seems strangely annoyed by her gratitude for Cedric. Is that jealousy we're seeing? Rowan leaves for a meeting, and Althea meets the royal guard reinforcements. She thanks them for the rescue, but they reveal that Rowan ordered them to protect her days ago. It wasn't the Emperor's order, it was Rowan's secret plan. Then, the butler Harold drops a massive bombshell. Harold explains that the ambush was likely meant for her all along. That's a chilling thought. Why would she be the target? Back at House Ashford, Cedric and Elias discuss the attack's details. Cedric points out that the assassins were only pretending to be from Lisburn to hide their identity. Elias connects the dots. He realizes who the mastermind is and confronts Duke Sterling at once. It was Sterling. He sent the killers, and Althea was his main target all along. You absolute snake. Sterling just smirks, telling Elias that he is also an accomplice in this. Elias confronts Duke Sterling about the ambush and confirms the Duke was indeed behind it. Sterling was targeting Althea. Elias is beyond furious that Cedric was hurt because of this snake. You will pay for this, but Sterling reminds Elias that he's an accomplice in this scheme. He's an accomplice now. Elias is shattered by his choices. So what do you and I take from all this? Lady Althea's fears are only growing after Harold's chilling warning. Bridge at night, Bridge 1. All right, you and I are diving back into a story where changing the past creates a brand new future for everyone involved. She realizes she is surrounded by people who care for her, and her return to the past has shifted everything for those around her. Meanwhile, the day for the royal delegation to Roan has arrived. Alastair is part of it, and Cashin speaks with him as they prepare. Suddenly, Alastair tosses his sword to Cashin, claiming he no longer needs it. Cashin is stunned and immediately confronts Alastair about his strange actions. Just then, Alice appears and calls out for Alastair. During their talk, he gives her so many warnings that it seems like he never intends to return. It is revealed that Alastair confessed all his secret dealings with the corrupt nobles to the king and prince, accepting a dangerous mission as penance. Alice desperately begs Alastair to tell her that he will come home, but instead, he simply vows to hold onto his feelings for her. Even though his love remains unreciprocated, he stays devoted. Respect to him for that. Alastair then begins his long journey toward his final destination. Duke Blackwood is absolutely furious with Alastair for his recent choices. The Duke is now planning to capture the prince himself. Stay away from him, you wicked old man. Bridge at night, Bridge 2. Now pay attention here, because while the villains plot, Alice and the knights are busy searching for the small kitten from Alastair. She ends up in the palace gardens and accidentally overhears the prince and the king arguing over the summer palace, which clearly upsets the sovereign. She hides to avoid being caught listening. As soon as she hears that their conversation is finally over, she stands up and Rupert sees her. Prince Rupert asks why she is lurking in the garden, and she answers that she was just looking for something she misplaced earlier that morning. Alice then asks Prince Rupert if the summer palace she heard about is the one enchanted with powerful cooling magic to help escape the heat. He confirms it and explains it was a retreat for royals, though his father hasn't stayed there for many years now. Rupert wants the sovereign to stay in the summer palace, but the king refuses. He then suggests that Alice go there with the sovereign instead. He believes she can convince him. Just as he asks, Cashin interrupts the moment to report on the search for the missing kitten. Talk about bad timing from Cashin. Upon hearing about the cat, Rupert mentions seeing a small animal inside his private office earlier that morning. Bridge at night, Bridge 3. You and I can see where this is going. Inside the office, Alice finally finds Luna and begins playing with the energetic little creature. After she and Cashin play with Luna, the kitten runs to Rupert. As he passes the cat back to Alice, he brings up the palace again. Prince Rupert eventually finds a very clever way to persuade the king that they should all relocate to the summer palace for the summer season. At the summer palace, Alice reads a letter from Princess Priscilla, who has officially become the next Duchess of House Ross. The sovereign later calls Alice for tea to discuss their stay. They enjoy the peace of the enchanted gardens while they talk about the palace. During their conversation, the king reveals that Rupert was the one looking out for her and insisted they stay here for her own protection. Alice is deeply touched, realizing Rupert truly does care for her, remembering their previous talk about how refreshing this change of scenery would be. Isn't he just the sweetest right now? Speaking of his kindness, Rupert even sent a letter to Alice to check on her well-being today. He is so adorable. Alice and Cashin are having their practice duel when she begins hearing a weird, mechanical clicking sound in her mind. It sounds like a mechanical wheel spinning. Suddenly, Lord Karen rushes to the summer palace to deliver a message of extreme urgency to the king. Alice sees her father and rushes to follow him, since it has been 2 months since they last spoke to one another in person. She still hears that strange noise that bothers her. As she arrives near her father, her face turns deathly pale at the news he brings. Lord Karen delivers a report to the sovereign about a mysterious girl suddenly appearing out of nowhere on the lake at the main palace. Oh no, the time has finally come. Alice knows exactly who her father is referring to in this urgent and terrifying report. It is Julia. It turns out that the sound she alone hears is the wheel of fortune returning to its original and tragic direction. In the capital, just moments before Julia's sudden appearance, the ministers and officers are locked in a heated debate regarding the devastating drought that has plagued the lands for many days on end. Prince Rupert suggests that they all take a breather and walk to the lake behind the palace to clear their heads for a moment. As everyone returns to the issue, Rupert steps in to speak, but before he can continue, Julia suddenly appears in the center of the lake. Rupert catches the falling girl. Everyone is in absolute shock at her appearance, as she seems to be from a completely different world entirely. She looks like she belongs to another world. Back at the summer palace, Alice faints from the shock of hearing the news of the arrival. When she wakes up, her father talks to her about Julia and the massive, life-altering changes this event will cause within the empire. Alice is in total shock because Julia was supposed to appear an entire year later, just like she did in her previous life's timeline. Something has gone wrong with the flow of fate. Oh no, what could have possibly caused this terrifying and early shift in their destiny? Bridge at night, Bridge 4. So what do you and I take from this? The nightmare is starting early, and the real fight for survival begins right now. This was meant to happen 1 year later. Now pay attention because, trust me, the past has definitely changed. Stick with me. We are diving back into a world of royal secrets and heavy betrayals. In his private office, the prince thanks Lady 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 for her dedicated service to the crown. But she is miles away, wondering if the prince still harbors those old, dangerous feelings for Lady Jian. He calls her name, pulling her back to reality just as he is about to ask something personal. Suddenly, an assistant bursts in with urgent news regarding the Rose Palace, where Jian is being kept. It is exactly like the past, the same frantic energy, the same shadow hanging over the court. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 makes her excuses and heads straight for the temple, desperate to find the high priest. When the guards turn her away, she seeks solace in the quiet solitude of the prayer room. She stumbles into a forbidden chamber, hoping to hear the divine whisper that guided her 5 years ago. A voice thunders in her mind, the divine decree naming Jian as the chosen one, rasp. By morning, a summons for a grand council meeting arrives at the Manhwa estate. Her father gives her one final choice. Will she be the Manhwa heir or the empress? She gives her secret answer before the council. Pay attention, the power play starts now. The air is thick with tension, as the nobles argue over which girl truly carries the prophecy. The emperor stuns the room by revealing 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆's divine oracle, given by the heavens 5 years ago. To settle the chaos, 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 summons High Priest 𝒕rdius to provide the ultimate truth. 𝒕rdius steps forward, confirming that both 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 and Jian have been touched by the divine. But then he drops a bombshell, naming Jian as the one and only child of prophecy. 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 expected this sting, but it turns out the high priest isn't finished quite yet. The temple hierarchy has spoken, yet �rdius has his own vision of the future. He defies tradition, declaring that both young women are actually children of the sacred prophecy. Both of them possess the holy blessing and incredible divine powers. As one of the 6 legendary priests of Veda, his word carries more weight than heaven itself. His startling revelation shatters the temple's official stance and leaves the council in total shock. After the session, her loyal friends Antia and Ilya rush to her side. Meanwhile, the emperor and the prince have a private word with 𝒕rdius. The priest invites the royal pair to visit the temple alongside Lady 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆. He offers a sacred parting blessing to the group before finally making his silent, graceful exit. As she walks the halls, 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 meets Jian. You saw that coming, right? They were bound to clash. She wonders if this is the same friendly girl she once knew, or a monster. Jian smirks, asking if 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒄𝒆 is enjoying her life in a world that doesn't belong to her. A dark, malicious aura radiates from her. The kind girl from the past is gone. Hearing those words, Aristia realizes she isn't the only one who has traveled back in time. Jian mocks her, noting how young she looks and wondering if she arrived a bit too early. Disturbed by the encounter, Aristia hides her shaking hands from her father and puts on a mask. The powerful lords of Ross and Veritas pull her aside to discuss the next noble move. They fear a rival house will try to adopt Jian. Duke Ross suggests the imperialists should claim Jian to secure the empress title. Her father listens quietly, thinking of the choice Aristia made that morning. She chose the Manhwa legacy, refusing to ever sit on the cold, imperial throne as empress. Talk about a boss move. As the afternoon session begins, the rival dukes start a fierce bidding war over Jian. Duke Zena snaps, insulting Aristia by calling her blood common and tainted. He drops a secret that freezes the room. Her mother was a peasant's child. Absolute madness, right? Stick with me. You and I are diving into a royal mess as accusations fly. Lady Althea is stunned, since the royal registry clearly states her mother is from House Somerset. The king silences the crowd and warns Sterling about rumors, while the room fills with tension. In the silence, Lady Genevieve speaks up, declaring she wants to choose her own path. She picks Duke Sterling, a massive mistake since Genevieve's new home was already decided. The king ends the day, leaving the choice of the future queen for a final discussion. Later, in Julian's study, Sir Cedric finds something strange while browsing the ancient royal registry logs. He realizes the connections between House Somerset and Althea's mother, Lady 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆, are actually quite suspicious. The dates in the book simply do not match up, and Julian admits the records are flawed. Pay attention here. This is where the mystery really starts to deepen for our characters. Cedric suggests Julian visit the Lantern Festival for a much-needed break from all these political schemes. As night falls, Althea and her friends head to the riverside to release flowers into the water. Althea is so lost in her thoughts that she completely misses her chance to offer a prayer. Her friends run off to find another flower so she can try again, leaving her alone. While waiting, Althea wanders the riverbank, blaming herself for not being ready for Genevieve's arrival. Sterling's words haunt her, but suddenly, Julian's voice calls out from across the dark river. Surprised, Althea nearly falls, but thankfully, her friend arrives just in time to catch her. The following day, Julian makes a shocking decree that the choice for Empress will wait. He wants another year to decide between Althea and Genevieve, despite the court's many loud objections. The nobles worry he needs help managing the kingdom, but Julian insists he can handle it alone. Our prince is finally stepping up, claiming this time is needed to test Genevieve's true capability. Later in the royal gardens, Althea is sitting on a bench, still drowning in her thoughts. Julian pulls her into a tight embrace, snapping her back to reality while whispering his apologies. Althea feels a wave of relief, grateful for the extra time to decide her future path. Julian promises to respect her wishes no matter what, and his heart belongs only to her. He tells her there is no pressure, showing a level of kindness Althea never expected. They share a quiet meal together, and Althea notices he is eating simple food for her. Standing on the balcony, Julian recalls a time when Althea's mother scolded him as a boy. "You see that? Our prince has fallen hard. Let us see what happens next." He remembers being 4 years old and taking a scepter, only for Lady 𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 to stop him. That stern but kind correction left a mark on him, proving she was a woman of character. He also remembers her visiting the palace with a newborn Althea, comforting him when he was crying. Her warm smile stayed with him forever, and Althea is moved to tears hearing this story. Julian tells her that a person's heart is far more important than any noble name. As night falls, Althea returns home while Julian stays in his office with Sir Cedric. The prince finally breaks down, revealing that the late empress hated him for not being her son. It turns out Julian's biological mother was a commoner. Wait, what? This changes everything. He cries about the years of discrimination, feeling like he never truly belonged in the palace. Sterling's claims were true. They are both descendants of peasants, bound by a secret blood. Cedric comforts the sobbing prince, telling him he has done an amazing job despite the obstacles. He reminds Julian that his care for Althea is proof of the noble man he's become. Julian's background was kept secret for years, but now the truth is finally coming out. He refuses to let this define his future or his deep love for Althea. The prince vows to protect her, even if the entire kingdom turns against them. Trust me, you and I are in for one hell of a ride. Let's dive into a tale where high society secrets and royal drama collide on one fateful rainy morning. Lady Althea huddles with her inner circle, Beatrice and Alara, to strategize against the rising aristocratic faction. As Alara ponders Lady Genevieve's dangerous ties to the corrupt nobles, the group realizes the web is growing complex. Refusing to bow to Genevieve's dominance, Althea steals her resolve before Beatrice interrupts her dark thoughts with a spark. The princess brings incredible news. The boutique Althea is sponsoring is booming, thanks to a brilliant new master crafter. Nothing beats a queen who knows exactly how to run a business empire. Sir Cedric bursts in after dueling Althea's father, bragging about being invincible thanks to the legendary house Valois techniques. Poor Althea can only pout since she is forbidden from studying her own family's secret sword style. Don't worry, her time is coming. Soon, Althea and Genevieve are called to fix the Loom River's flooding. Their brilliant designs win high praise, but Genevieve's desperate hunger for power is becoming more obvious. She relentlessly stalks Prince Julian, begging for a moment to discuss her proposal, but he is completely over it. Instead, he calls out to Althea, leaving Genevieve fuming. Honestly, seeing her this annoyed is just so satisfying. He wants a private word, but Althea stays professional until the sudden arrival of the high priest halts everything. His Holiness arrives quite unexpectedly. He heard people were hiding Althea from the temple, so he decided to come find the girl for himself. The high priest quickly sweeps Althea away for a private chat, much to everyone's total surprise. She is understandably cautious, knowing that while he seems kind, he is still the voice of the powerful temple. Now pay attention here, in the garden. He warns her that shocking news is coming, and she must stay brave. When she agrees with total composure, he praises her for being so incredibly sharp. She is handling this perfectly. Our main character is truly insightful. Later, Althea finds herself sparring once again with Sir Cedric. Despite her massive improvements in swordplay, a sudden wave of weakness washes over her in the training yard. Be careful, Althea. Thankfully, the charming Sir Cedric is right there to catch her. She pushes through to handle the grueling paperwork for the upcoming Founders Gala budget, refusing to rest. As she leaves, Cedric teases her, calling her a softie and telling her not to faint. He's such a flirt. Back in the office, she gets a shock when the powerful Duchess Alina Ross pays her a sudden visit. The Duchess admits she is not Althea's biggest fan, but she is still willing to offer her support. You and I saw that, right? She warns Althea not to disappoint her. This woman is cold as ice. Alina despises the new Lady Genevieve and demands that Althea proves she is superior to her in every way. She calls Genevieve arrogant and unfit for the throne, revealing the prince even had to settle a palace conflict. Genevieve is certainly being bold, but her luck might be running out. Noticing Althea is pale, the Duchess finally leaves, telling her to take care of herself before she collapses. Althea finds a box on her desk containing a stunning dress and a sweet note left behind by Cedric. Later, they present their budget plans to the Emperor. Genevieve's lack of care for the knights is obvious. She expects them to train in the blistering heat without a second thought. Talk about being out of touch. As Duke Sterling insults Althea's hard work, she tries to defend it, but her vision starts to spin. She stumbles, and the prince immediately looks terrified for her. He really does care more than he lets on. Suddenly, Althea hears the voice of the Divine Mother delivering a brand new, chilling prophecy to her mind. On the second day of the gala, it is finally Althea's turn to host the grand evening banquet. She and Sir Cedric look breathtaking, especially since they are wearing perfectly matching outfits for the royal ball. Lost in her worries, Althea only snaps out of it when she realizes Cedric is staring at her intently. He admits he was trying to find just one thing about her that was not impressive, but he failed. Sir Cedric definitely knows how to make a heart flutter. His words bring a genuine smile to her face. Insisting that she be the star of the night, he pulls her onto the floor for the next song. Althea and Cedric lose themselves in the dance, while someone watches them from the shadows with burning eyes. And trust me, Prince Julian is looking anything but happy right now. Talk about a jealous king. Stick with me. You're about to see Lady Alara's life at court turn into an absolute nightmare. Jealous noblewomen are sabotaging her with petty accidents, while Duke Thorne scolds her and Lady Isabella gloats. Seriously, the nerve of these people, right? Alara only finds safety when Sir Tristan asks to dance. But Isabella is spiteful, making sure to stomp on poor Tristan's feet throughout their entire waltz. This woman is truly nasty. By the end, Alara is left blushing when Tristan suddenly kisses her forehead. Sir Tristan just brushes the whole thing off as perfectly normal. Is that so, Tristan? He tells her to stop having funny ideas and will see her tomorrow. She is left standing there, thinking about how he still treats her like a little child. The next day, Prince Julian and Alara are partners, wearing matching outfits of forest green and white. They look perfect together, but as Alara tries to finish the dance, her strength fails and she collapses. Oh no. Luckily Julian catches her in time, but poor Alara has completely lost consciousness. After a brief moment with her father, she slips back into the dark, unable to identify her visitor. It is Prince Julian, drowning in regret. He blames himself for her poisoning, wishing she had left. Holding her hand, he begs her to survive until the Grand Cleric is found, tenderly kissing her fingers. You and I are about to see. It is 3 months later before she finally wakes up. The Grand Cleric reveals she was hit with 2 different poisons. Who would do something so cruel? This explains her constant fainting. But to make matters worse, the poison might prevent her from having children. Moments later, Tristan bursts into the room and pulls her into a tight hug. She is stunned, especially when he admits he was terrified he would never see her alive again. He begs her never to get hurt again. You can really feel his heartbreak here. They share a touching moment as Alara finally hugs him back. Later, she visits the dying king. Burdened by guilt, she apologizes, but the king insists she isn't to blame as he nears his end. He asks one last favor: stay by my son's side, even as a friend if she chooses family. She promises to fulfill his wish. Outside, she runs into the prince and tries to apologize once more. He absolves her of any guilt. She then asks for permission to investigate Count Sterling's crimes. Prince Julian gives her 3 months to prove the Count's guilt before he officially delivers the punishment. Duke Thorne confronts the family after Alara is granted a private audience with the king. He even implies the king shouldn't have let the person who caused his illness near him. How can this man be so vile? Lord Alastair immediately steps up, ready to fight for his daughter. Alastair promptly defends his daughter, ready to engage in a heated argument with the Duke until they're interrupted. A cheerful man interrupts, informing Lord Alastair that the Duke is only concerned for the king's health. This guy is so suspicious. He is Lord Valerius, a high-ranking member of the aristocratic faction. He greets Alara with a fake friendliness. Meanwhile, Alara is certain that Isabella helped poison her. Alara is becoming certain that Isabella was behind the poisoning, and she vows that she won't just stand by. Pay attention here, because this is where everything starts to spiral. Tragic news strikes the kingdom. The king has passed away. Julian is crowned the new sovereign, while Alara watches through a veil of tears. She mourns the loss of a remarkable man as the somber funeral rituals begin across the capital. The realm weeps for the fallen king, while Alara watches Julian struggle to maintain a cold, stoic mask. Moving to support him, she kneels and takes his hand, urging him to stay strong and overcome grief. Julian reveals his father's only concern was the kingdom. Alara counters, saying his father loved him deeply. Suddenly, Isabella tries to approach the new king, but is blocked by the royal guards. Despite Isabella's shouting, Julian ignores her completely and begs 𝒊𝒂𝒂 to stay by his side. Later, in the royal gardens, they share a quiet moment together, reflecting on the memory of their fathers. 𝒊𝒂𝒂 admits she wasn't always close to her father, and even believed for a time he didn't love her. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next in this story. All right, you and I are jumping right in, as Julian asks exactly how they became this close. 𝒊𝒂𝒂 tells him it started with a nightmare. Being alone terrified her, but his presence proved he cares. She reminds him his father was similar, possessing immense faith in his son and feeling very proud. He was only harsh because Julian would one day carry the weight of the entire empire. The emperor finally opens up, confessing he was deeply envious of her during their childhood because she was adored by the very people he craved love from. He admits he hated her, making 𝒊𝒂𝒂 realize this was why he loathed her in her past life. Forgiveness is still hard, but at least she understands his pain. As they talk, she suddenly feels a heavy weight leaning against her shoulder. The sovereign has rested his head on her, drifting off into a deep, peaceful sleep. How romantic. To make him comfortable, she gently lets him rest his head on her lap instead. It is adorable. If only this was not such a tragic day for them both. Morning comes and she wakes in the royal chambers. Luckily, no one spotted her. Julian left a note of pure gratitude. 𝒊𝒂𝒂 smiles, but soon receives 2 letters with completely opposing and confusing messages. One is a formal summons to a high council meeting, while the other is Julian pleading with her to stay away. Despite his warning, she is determined to end this conflict once and for all. The rival lords are ruthless, insisting that Genevieve is the only suitable candidate for the crown. They target 𝒊𝒂𝒂's ambition to lead her house. However, the emperor retorts that the so-called princess Genevieve has not even been recognized as a proper lady. Things get ugly when the council claims that 𝒊𝒂𝒂 is barren and unable to fulfill her sacred duty of providing royal heirs. The sheer audacity. 𝒊𝒂𝒂 has had enough and boldly declares she has no intention of becoming empress anyway. This is intense. You and I need to see if this is truly the end. Julian is crushed, along with her allies. She explains she is not fit to stand beside him. She then begs him to officially annul their marriage contract. The emperor confronts her privately. She explains this was inevitable and reminds him of his past promise to respect her choices. The heartbroken sovereign asks if she truly loathes him that much. How heartbreaking. Despite the tears stinging her eyes, she tells him that although she once loved him, those feelings are dead. Julian is stunned. He clenches his fists in agony and tells her to do as she wishes. He walks away, leaving her standing alone. Pay attention because we are moving into a new chapter. After the disastrous meeting, Sir Kane arrives. He offers to abandon his family's political stance, now that his father has officially withdrawn from the faction's messy business. Oh, Kane, he is doing this for 𝒊𝒂𝒂. He is honestly just too dreamy. 𝒊𝒂𝒂 refuses to pull him down with her. Later, her father arrives to ask about her choice. She expects anger or disappointment, but instead, he tells her she did a wonderful job. He admits he hated forcing her into a life she clearly despised. He tells her to live for herself. Father of the year, right? She vows to him that she will become the true successor of House Castile. She asks to hold her coming-of-age ceremony at their family estate, instead of the royal city, wanting to solidify her power as the rightful heir. Days later, 𝒊𝒂𝒂 visits the cathedral. The high priest notes how much she resembles her late mother. Because of this, he offers frequent blessings and requests she visit the sanctuary every 15 days. Before she can leave, she runs into Genevieve, who begins hurling the most ridiculous accusations. It is infuriating. She accuses 𝒊𝒂𝒂 of using cheap, dirty tricks just to seduce the prince. She even claims 𝒊𝒂𝒂 is jealous of her. Hearing Genevieve make such claims makes 𝒊𝒂𝒂 furious, especially when she learns this girl returned to the past just to win. She screams that she already abandoned the throne. Genevieve has already taken so much from her life. What more could she want? Genevieve is toxic. You and I can see Althea is reaching her limit, however Althea is stunned as Juliet snaps. Trust me, you and I are about to see a rivalry like no other. She demands the truth, but Juliet refuses to speak. Some things are better left buried, she coldly claims. Before Juliet leaves, Althea warns her to stop. That girl seriously needs to learn respect for the high nobility. Days later, the king sends a gift. To her shock, it is a music box with a tiny dancing figurine. It looks just like her, but what is truly confusing is the miniature Althea wearing a golden royal tiara. That is a crown reserved for the royal family alone. She forces herself to stop overthinking before she goes mad. When her coming-of-age gala arrives, the venue is suddenly moved from the Montclair estate to the palace grounds. The king is making some bold moves. Let us see how the rest of the court handles this change. To make matters worse, Lord Miller starts acting friendly. Now pay attention, because this man is bad news. Her suspicion grows because she cannot find any dirt on him, despite his ties to the aristocracy's inner circle. During the grand debut dance, the king approaches. Althea decides to take a massive risk right then and there. She asks if he will be her first dance as an adult. He smiles, saying he would be truly honored. Look at that smile. They glide across the floor while the entire ballroom watches them in stunned silence. They gaze into each other's eyes during the waltz. It is romantic, but Althea still has questions about that gift. She regrets not asking about the tiara. Was it a sign, or did the king mean nothing by it? She scolds herself for caring. Suddenly, a cruel voice interrupts her thoughts from the palace garden. People are gossiping about her. They are mocking her, claiming she will never be able to provide an heir. She is furious at their blatant disrespect. Suddenly, a dagger flies toward one of the men, nearly hitting him. It is Sir Cedric coming to defend her honor. You and I both knew he wasn't letting that slide. What a knight in shining armor. He threatens to end them if they ever insult the lady again. Once they flee, Cedric asks why she is so exhausted. He reminds her he'd leave his father's politics for her. She tells him not to sacrifice his future. After all, he never even cared for the games of court. Cedric looks crushed, assuming she thinks he is unworthy. This love triangle is getting messy, isn't it? During the hunt, a bear attacks. Althea is forced to flee into the dark woods alone. She stops to check her horse's injury. Luckily, the king arrives on his stallion and offers her a seat. Just imagine the sovereign on his white horse, reaching down to pull her up. Absolutely legendary vibes here. As they ride back, Althea and the king have a surprisingly quiet and very intimate chat. He mentions the silver blooms in the garden. She immediately perks up, asking if they have flowered yet. A moment later, she realizes how eager she sounds. It is a bit embarrassing to be this obsessed. The king just smiles. He finds her interest in the gardens quite charming. He promises the blushing Althea that he will be the first to tell her once the blossoms finally open. Later, Althea brings her concerns about Miller to Duke Valerius. He promises to investigate the man's shadow. They also discuss House Zale's failing business. Althea knows Juliet will be livid once she finds out. She knows exactly how furious she will be. A few days later, news breaks that Marquis Emerson has died. His heir takes over immediately, but Althea cannot help but notice the young lord acting very strangely. He is missing from the funeral, which is a huge red flag. Suddenly, Althea is interrupted by a visitor. It is an angry Juliet. She accuses Althea of ruining her charity work for the city's poor people. Instead of yelling back, Althea stays calm. She points out that Juliet doesn't even know the truth. The sanctum is corrupt. They aren't helping anyone, they are just selling stolen supplies back to the commoners. Althea doesn't reveal everything. She challenges Juliet to go see the ugly truth for herself for once. Months pass, and the peerage starts a new plot. They want Althea as empress and Juliet as queen. They assume that since Althea is barren, Juliet will be the one to provide a royal heir. The plot is obvious. They are panicking because she is finally investigating their dirty inner circles. And right on cue, a furious Juliet storms in. "Trust me, you and I haven't seen anything yet." So, what do you and I make of this? The real war for the throne is only beginning. All right, you and I are jumping right into the drama, as she's accused of still loving the emperor, who ruined her past life. Jiyeon reveals the dark truth about the man Tia loves, recounting what happened to the emperor after she died back then. He totally abandoned her, losing his mind while searching for a version of 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆 that didn't even exist anymore. Jiyeon calls her insane, screaming that she shouldn't love him after everything he's done. But Tia argues that the 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒅 in this timeline hasn't committed those crimes yet, though Jiyeon isn't buying it. She insists Tia is just making excuses. To her, a man's nature never changes, and his current kindness is just temporary. Those words hit hard, making 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 wonder if changing the past is actually enough to rewrite her destiny. Despite the doubt, 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 officially passes her trials to become a knight. Big win for our girl Tia. At the knighthood ceremony, Tia pledges her absolute loyalty to the emperor and is finally declared a true knight. But then, she shocks the whole room by bringing up the blood oath of House Manhwa. 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒅 is stunned, desperately trying to shut her down before she can say another word. He refuses to listen, but 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 pushes forward, knowing this is the only way for both of them to survive. Even with her heart aching, she makes a vow to never fall in love with him again. Now pay attention here. She makes a massive gamble, asking to be named the 54th head of House Manhwa. She wants the title and nothing else, but the emperor flatly rejects her vow, sending the room into total chaos. He storms out, and 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 chases after him, only for him to suddenly grab her hand. He pulls her into a private room and confesses that he doesn't care about anyone else. He's desperately in love. Total swoon moment, right? The emperor leans in for a kiss, but 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 isn't having it. She actually pushes him away. "Girl, what are you doing? Most people would kill to be in your shoes." Talk about a wasted opportunity. 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒅 apologizes, but insists he wants her as his beloved partner, not a subject. He wants her to be his one and only. "My heart is fluttering, but what about the rest of us?" 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 asks why he'd throw away a beneficial oath just for a fleeting feeling. He explains that he rejected Jiyeon as empress, despite all the backlash, because he only wants to win Tia's heart. Suddenly, their heavy conversation is cut short by the sound of someone walking their way. It's Marquis Karen, 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 father. Talk about perfect timing. The emperor apologizes, but the Marquis says he did them a favor by stopping Tia's hasty decision. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 is shocked when 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒅 mentions other ways her father could have stepped in. "I know what you're thinking." She's curious too. What other ways could she escape this mess? The emperor begs for more time, wanting to protect her, so her father agrees to honor her wishes. Back in her room later, 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 finds a pile of letters from the emperor. He wrote to her every day while she was out for 3 months, pouring out his absolute pain. She can tell he's being sincere, but she's still terrified of opening her heart again. She is determined not to let her heart get shattered a second time. As the days pass, she helps the emperor with work, noticing how pale and tired he looks. Suddenly, Jiyeon arrives for a meeting, and 𝒊𝒔𝒂𝒕𝒅 surprisingly asks 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 to stay by his side. Jiyeon greets the emperor and tries to win him over with a round of gifts. He thanks her politely, but immediately sends her away, saying he's way too busy. Ouch, that's gotta sting. Jiyeon leaves fuming, shooting a deadly glare at 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 on her way out. They get back to work, but the emperor suddenly collapses. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 panics and calls for help. She summons the high priest immediately, terrified about what could have caused him to pass out. The high priest arrives and reveals a shocking truth. The emperor has been poisoned. It's the same poison used on 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒕𝒅 before, but in men, it triggers blind rage instead of death. The emperor orders everyone to keep the poisoning a total secret for now. Later, tragic news arrives. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅's older brother has passed away. And that's where we leave it, trust me. Things are about to get even darker from here. Let us dive into a story where every single choice carries a heavy price. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒄𝒆 is stunned to hear that 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 was around. Where on earth has he been all this time? Duke 𝒔𝒕𝒂 explains that 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 visited his brother one last time, before leaving to finally claim his role as heir. He shares this because he knows she has been searching for 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 and wants her to know he is safe. This brings 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 huge relief after their messy parting, even though she knows she caused him deep pain. She worries her actions drove him away and only wants to see her dear friend just one more time. "Oh, 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅, please remember your promise and come back to me soon." 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 heads to the great cathedral to meet the second priest, currently guarding the infant sixth high priest. She learns that the fourth high priest is also making a sudden trip to the capital very soon. Suspecting the poison was smuggled through holy ground, she prepares to make a very dangerous and bold move. 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 offers to hunt down the traitors within the cathedral in exchange for divine power and legal testimony. But this deal only works if the high priest can successfully identify the poison and its secret antidote. Later, she gets a letter from Lord Xena with heavy demands for info on his own corrupt father. She knows she cannot agree to these terms, especially since the emperor himself was the assassin's primary target. With the stakes this high, 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 is forced to make a truly impossible choice. 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 and the emperor go over the latest leads regarding the people who poisoned them. Their meeting is cut short when Princess Printia, wife of the High Commander, requests a private audience. 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 leaves to give them space, but returns when she realizes she forgot some highly confidential documents. Now, pay attention here, because what happens next is about to shatter her heart completely. It reminds her of the child she lost in her past life and the crushing reality of her infertility. She wonders if she could have been happy if she had just been allowed to hold her baby once. The emperor sees her crying and his heart breaks. He rushes to her side without a second thought. He pulls her into a tight embrace as she mourns the life and the child she lost long ago. "Honestly, you and I are both feeling the weight of this absolute tragedy right now." Then, his next words shock her. He says he doesn't care about an heir as long as they can be together. He is willing to sacrifice everything just to be with the woman he loves. Unable to accept this, she pushes him away, her heart torn between her love and her dark past. He follows her, draping a coat over her shoulders before inviting her to walk with him by the lake. He takes her to a beautiful view, wanting to show her the man he is outside of his royal duties. He wants her to see his true heart, free from the heavy chains of the imperial crown. And then he finally kisses her. How romantic is that? Under the magical moonlight, they finally stop running and just let themselves feel the love they have for each other. Alone in her room later, she can't stop thinking about his promise to find an heir for her. He would even take a child not of his blood just to keep her, but she fears it will only end in ruin. You and I both know this only means more pain for these two. With tears streaming down her face, she decides she must officially reject his love to save him. But during a palace meeting, it is revealed their engagement was never actually cancelled by the royal court. Wait, she is still his fiancée. I thought the engagement was called off a long time ago. She feels betrayed by his secrecy, but a part of her is secretly thrilled that he loves her this much. The emperor comes to apologize to her for his desperate actions. He admits that no matter how hard he tried to let her go, he simply could not break their bond. He is desperate to stay with her, even if it means fighting against the entire kingdom and fate itself. She says she has no right to stand with him, but he tells her he is here as a man, not an emperor. He tells her to forget their titles and all the pain of the past. Trust me, watching her choose the past over the future like this is just absolutely devastating. A relic of his past, she claims. She tells him all things must fade with the passing of time. All right, you and I can feel his heart literally shattering. 𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 is in absolute agony right now. He finally vows to grant her wish during the kingdom's grand foundation ceremony. Lady Gianna stuns the crowd with divine light, making flowers bloom. The people hail her as their new saint. 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒕𝒅 watches in pain, knowing she is defeated. Gianna now commands the full support of the empire's commoners. The citizens cheer for their saint, while Aristia struggles with her own deepening questions. Conflicted emotions swirl within her, even though she was the one who surrendered her high position. Her thoughts break when the third prince of Lusa rudely shoves past her while rushing for the exit. Suddenly, she finds Baroness Beatrice collapsed on the cold stone floor, surrounded by a pool of blood. A desperate Beatrice begs for her unborn child's life. The emperor arrives and orders Gianna to use her powers. But Aristia notices something strange. Lady Gianna can't do it. Is the saint's divine power already running dry? Luckily, the royal physicians arrive just in time to save both the mother and the infant. Later, a doctor notices Aristia looks pale and insists on performing a quick medical examination. After a moment, he reveals she can still bear children because the poison has finally left her system. Overjoyed, she turns to tell the emperor but finds his back already turned away from her. Feeling like a fool, she reminds herself that she was the one who pushed him away first. A grand council meeting is held right after the festival, requiring every single high-ranking noble to attend. Pay attention here, because this is exactly where the emperor's secret trap finally begins to snap shut. The nobles enjoy a lavish feast, completely unaware that their sovereign has a deadly surprise in store for them. He announces royal inspectors are here to prove he was being slowly poisoned by his own court. When the poison is confirmed, an uproar breaks out. Who would dare strike at the crown? A trial begins, dragging every traitor and corrupt priest into the light of justice. Count Denier is the first to fall, boldly naming Marquis Milia as the mastermind behind the plot. The emperor commands Duke Ross to arrest the Marquis and Count Holton for their roles in the conspiracy. Later, the emperor hands over the official document, canceling their engagement to the Grand Chancellor. Even though Aristia got exactly what she wanted, it's clear that watching this happen is tearing her apart. You saw that too, right? It seems no one in this palace is allowed to be truly happy. Aristia and the knights are sent to arrest the Marquis, but they walk straight into a cornered ambush. Trapped in a dead end by assassins, hope seems lost until Sir Carcine arrives with Lady Gianna. It turns out Gianna sensed the trap and warned Carcine, but then the killers turn toward the girl. They aren't after the knights, they want Gianna. What is actually going on in this chaos? An assassin strikes, but Carcine throws himself forward to shield the girl and takes a heavy hit. He is stabbed from behind, and Aristia rushes in to help her fallen comrade without thinking. She doesn't see the killer looming at her back, but Sir Seymour takes the blow for her instead. As she tends to Seymour's wound, a shadow falls over them. It's the fugitive Marquis Milia himself. Aristia draws her sword, refusing to yield to the man she believes is behind this entire nightmare. She readies herself for a final stand, determined to fight the traitor until her very last breath. The Marquis raises his blade to strike, but he isn't aiming for the knights or Gianna. He attacks the assassins instead. You and I definitely didn't see that massive twist coming, did we? Aristia stands there frozen in confusion. Why is the prime suspect slaughtering his own supposed allies? The Emperor's personal guard finally arrives, quickly surrounding the area to capture every remaining killer. Carcine is badly wounded, but Gianna tearfully admits she has no power left to heal him. This infuriates Aristia, as the knight nearly died to protect a saint who can't even help. Marquis Monique steps in to calm her, promising that the royal doctors will save the young knight. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you and I need to see what happens next. All right, you and I are about to witness a betrayal that shakes the whole kingdom. She suddenly stabs Aristia. The king and Lord Karen rush forward to help. Rupert screams for the healers to save her, but it looks far too late. Blood is everywhere now. The crowd watches in absolute horror, completely unable to act. Lord Karen is broken with grief, desperately begging his daughter to stay conscious. Dying, Aristia only thinks of Rupert's efforts to win her heart and how she pushed him away. Rupert pleads for her to stay, promising to grant her every single wish she has. He is sobbing now, telling her that she is the only true heir he needs. How can he go on if he loses her? It is so incredibly painful watching him beg while our girl fades away. Now here is where things get interesting. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 wakes up, wondering if it was a dream. Her father's arrival proves it was real, especially when he pulls her into a warm embrace. Later, he asks if she really has the determination to inherit the family title. He does not like the king, but he sees how she looks at him with heartache. He promises to support her no matter what, but tells her she must follow her heart, whatever the cost. Lord Karen is truly the father of the year, is he not? 𝒂𝒆𝒂 rushes to the king's side as he rants about the recent chaotic events. She avoids his eyes at first, then suddenly pulls him into a warm, desperate hug. She admits that while she believed she was dying, she was simply grateful to be in his arms at last. She regrets waiting so long to realize her true feelings for him after all this. Finally, she gave in to her feelings, and honestly, it was about time. Rupert is thrilled, holding her tight and saying he just wants to be by her side forever. Their love finally begins to bloom, but while she was out, big things happened. The mastermind was Duke Thorn, and his ally, Lord Miller, actually turned against him. It turns out Lord Miller was forced into the scheme by the Duke's dangerous faction. Okay, I know what you're thinking, but Jane just dropped a massive truth bomb. Jane used a wish from a god to rescue her, but that wish came with a very heavy and permanent price. What a massive revelation. In their final meeting, 𝒂𝒆𝒂 still has one more big question. Was the king poisoned in the past, causing him to become such a cruel tyrant? Jane confirms it. They warped his mind to make the whole kingdom hate him. Jane tried to help him before, but being from another world, she was lost. Eventually, he left her alone and pregnant in a world she did not even know. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 realizes he did it to protect himself from those wanting his unborn heir. Jane had a daughter and tried to flee, but she was eventually tracked down. The person who killed her was none other than Duke Thorn himself. Can you believe that? That is why she let him adopt her for revenge. 𝒂𝒆𝒂 thanks her for everything. Because Rupert seemed different this time, not like the cold king she once knew. She could not understand why she was there until this very moment of truth. Jane's hood falls, revealing her hair turned silver from losing all of her magic. Later, 𝒂𝒆𝒂 bravely tells the king about the dreams of her past life. He admits he already read letters about them and is glad she finally told him. He swears to do everything so she never has to live that nightmare again. He better keep that promise. Finally, he asks her to call him Rupert. And that is where we leave them, in a happiness they both truly deserve now. Catelyn visits her one last time before he leaves for good. He tells her he wants a love as passionate and calm as his parents had. You and I are jumping into the final moments of an epic romance. He thinks of his mother. Even without words, he is creating distance, as if he is saying goodbye for the last time. We only hope he finds the love he truly deserves. Meanwhile, Althea's fate takes a major turn. She learns that despite becoming the Empress, she will still hold her position as the head of House Montague. Her successor will be a child with silver hair, a child not destined to inherit the throne. Once desperate to escape, Althea now embraces the challenging journey ahead. She finds peace sharing her heart with Rowan and dreaming of a shared future. Now watch closely. To prove his loyalty, Emperor Rowan makes a solemn blood oath to his bride. He declares his unwavering commitment to stand by her until the end, focusing their lives solely on each other. With his hand on his heart, he swears that his love for her will never change. This moment is absolutely stunning. Althea Montague is finally crowned as the new Empress. Rowan stands before the kingdom and declares her his one and only love forever. It is a beautiful end for a girl who once suffered so much for loving a man who loved another. Althea deserves her happiness. Rowan was cruel in her past life, and we all hated him. I know what you're thinking, but we've finally learned the truth. Tragic circumstances twisted him into that monster. Most importantly, the The current Rowan is not the same man she knew in her past life. Their love was once hopeless, but this is proof that we can truly change our own fate. Since Sir Cedric is free, I might just take him for myself. Thank you for watching with me. I hope you enjoyed Althea's journey. Tell me in the comments which titles you want covered next. We'll have them ready soon. Check out our other videos too. Long live the Empress. I'll see you in the next one.